Chapter 1971. Jin Ling's expression was serious as he asked, "Who are you, sir?" The green god was worried that Zhao Fu would interfere, so he said, "This matter has nothing to do with sir, so please leave and don't participate in our matters." Zhao Fu gave a trace of a smile, and did not fear these godly spirits. The only thing he cared about was the soldiers fighting on the ground. There were 400 million of them, and if they allied together, Zhao Fu would not be a match for them. However, since they had dared to descend here with such a powerful aura, Zhao Fu already had a plan. Zhao Fu smiled as he said, "I cannot participate in your matters, but you godly spirits must hand over your divine power to me. Otherwise, I'll help someone destroy that person." This was Zhao Fu's plan. Right now, the two factions' forces and godly spirits were about the same, and neither side could do anything to the other. However, if he joined, it would be beneficial to one side, and he might be able to destroy the other side. They had to listen to him because they definitely did not want to be destroyed, nor did they want the other side to obtain a powerful helper. Moreover, looking at how much hatred there was between them, it was impossible for them to ally against Zhao Fu. As such, Zhao Fu had the confidence to descend here with such a powerful aura. Otherwise, he would have to be careful. Hearing that he could obtain the help of such a powerful person just by handing over some godly spirits to Zhao Fu, the green god immediately said in delight, "Friend, I'm willing to agree to your request. Please help us destroy them, and we'll reward you greatly afterwards." How could Jin Ling watch as Zhao Fu joined the Green God faction? That would be quite disadvantageous to them, so they immediately said, "Sir, we're also willing to hand over our divine power. Please don't participate." Zhao Fu gave a trace of a smile as he said, "Hurry up and gather your divine power. After handing it over to me, I'll immediately leave and won't interfere with your matters." The Green God did not want to do this, as both sides would only use up a portion of their divine power. What he wanted was to destroy Jin Ling's faction and take revenge for his little brother. As such, the Green God said, "Friend, I sincerely ask for your help. If you're willing to help us after taking down Jin Ling's faction, everything will belong to you. What do you think? You'll be able to obtain a powerful faction with just a single move." Jin Ling's expression fell. This green god was willing to give up everything just to take revenge. He was worried that Zhao Fu would be tempted and choose to join the Green God faction, so he immediately said, "Sir, if you're willing to help us, after destroying the Green God faction, we won't take anything and will give everything to you. Moreover, even if Sir doesn't participate, we can still give you divine power and give you other things as well." Zhao Fu was just passing by, so he naturally did not want to join any faction. After all, they were useless to Zhao Fu, and his goal was to obtain some godly spirit power. As such, Jinling's offer was quite attractive to Zhao Fu. Zhao Fu was just passing by and naturally did not want a faction. If it was not for the fact that he feared Zhao Fu's power, he would have killed Zhao Fu as well. The Green God's expression was quite unsightly, and he felt quite furious. If it was not for the fact that he feared Zhao Fu's power, he would have killed Zhao Fu as well. There was no need for him to lower himself and beg him, yet the other side did not give him any face at all and chose the other side. Jin Ling smiled as he looked provocatively at the Green God and said, "Sir, I can't seem to gather divine power right now because the other side might attack." Hearing this, Zhao Fu smiled as he looked at the Green God and said, "You can also gather your divine power and hand it over to me." The Green God could not help but feel a trace of anger. He felt that Zhao Fu was already standing on Zhao Fu's side and that Zhao Fu was threatening them. This made him feel quite displeased, and he could only endure Zhao Fu. Looking at the Green God's furious expression, Zhao Fu's gaze became cold and he said domineeringly, "What? You don't want to hand over your divine power, but don't seek death. So what if I don't hand it over?" The Green God finally could not hold back his anger and loudly yelled at Zhao Fu. His body exploded out with a powerful aura as he glared at Zhao Fu without showing any weakness. Boom! 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 The green god's divine power also gave off a wave of anger and exploded out with powerful auras as he stared at Zhao Fu, causing the surrounding atmosphere to become cold. Jin Ling gave a trace of a smile as he looked at Zhao Fu to see what he would do next. Seeing the green god furiously glaring at him, Zhao Fu's heart felt cold, and he disappeared and reappeared beside the green god. A massive wave of cold and eerie power gathered in his arm as Zhao Fu used the 6 paths of reincarnation power, causing his arm to turn into a ghostly hand. The green god's power was not weak at all. The green god's expression fell, and seeing Zhao Fu appear in front of him, he hurriedly sent his power into his spear. The spear gave off an intense green light and gave off shocking power as it stabbed towards Zhao Fu. Boom! Zhao Fu directly punched out, and a massive wave of power slammed into the green god's chest. The green god's body plummeted like a meteor and heavily smashed into the ground, opening up a large crater. Everyone felt quite startled. Everything had happened too quickly, and they had not been able to react in time. The godly spirits on the green god's side looked furious as they gave off powerful auras and rushed at Zhao Fu. Zhao Fu looked quite disdainful as he gave off a massive wave of ghostly qi and rushed at the godly spirits. Bang! 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 Explosions sounded out as Zhao Fu continuously punched out with shocking power, sending the godly spirits flying back. Facing Zhao Fu's power, the godly spirits were unable to resist at all. The godly spirits on Jin Ling's side looked quite shocked. Only now did they realize that Zhao Fu's power was so terrifying that he could completely suppress those 10 or so godly spirits. If they rushed over, they would suffer the same fate. Stop attacking, we're willing to hand over our divine power. The green god looked quite terrified as blood leaked out of his lips as he flew down from the sky. Only now did he know how great the gap between him and Zhao Fu was. If this went on, the 10 or so godly spirits would all be killed by Zhao Fu. As such, the green god hurriedly called out, showing weakness to Zhao Fu. The godly spirit that had been sent flying also had blood leaking out of his lips as he looked at Zhao Fu in terror. They understood how terrifying Zhao Fu was and did not have any courage to fight him. Hearing the green god's name, Zhao Fu stopped attacking and coldly harumphed as he said, "At least you know what's good for you." The green god inwardly let out a sigh of relief, and squeezed out an unsightly smile as he had the other godly spirits gather their divine power. Jin Ling understood that if they did not hand over their divine power, they would suffer the same fate as the green god faction, so they immediately had their godly spirits gather their divine power. Chapter 1972. The 2 godly spirits obediently handed over their divine power, which Zhao Fu put away. He immediately returned to the group and had them take a detour. Because of Zhao Fu's appearance, both sides' godly spirits had fallen into a weakened state, so they could only stop fighting. Zhao Fu sat within the carriage and started to fuse with the divine power orbs that he had condensed. The power contained within these 30 orbs was equivalent to 40 ordinary godly spirits' divine power. After absorbing them, Zhao Fu's 10,000 godly power would become even more powerful. Now, Zhao Fu felt that after absorbing hundreds of godly spirits' divine power, his 10,000 godly power would once again go through a transformation. It would become an even higher level of 10,000 godly power and possess even more terrifying power. A while later, Zhao Fu fused with all of the orbs of divine power and gave a trace of a smile as he opened his eyes. His 10,000 godly spirits aura and 10,000 godly power had become stronger, but if he wanted to go through a qualitative change, he still lacked a few hundred godly spirits worth of divine power. Seeing Zhao Fu open his eyes, the moon god Sprout asked, "Did you go to the battlefield to rob others? You brought back so many divine power orbs." Zhao Fu smiled and nodded. The moon god Sprout said worriedly, "Judging from the sounds of fighting, the scale should be quite large. How did you dare to go and rob both sides' godly spirits? What if something happened to you? Zhao Fu smiled as he replied, I understand. Don't worry, I won't do anything too dangerous. Also, why are you worried about me? I'm not wrong. You'll be mine sooner or later. The moon god Sprout rolled her eyes at Zhao Fu and said with a slightly red face, I'm worried that something happened to you and that no one can help me fully awaken the 10 celestial body. Otherwise, I wouldn't be worried about you. Zhao Fu smiled as he asked, Is that so? After speaking, Zhao Fu stretched out his hand and pulled the moon god Sprout into his embrace. The moon god Sprout's face was red as she struggled a few times and found that she could not break free. As such, she could only let Zhao Fu hug her. By now, the moon god Sprout had recovered quite well, and her face had regained some color. She was even more beautiful than before. Mu Xiang had been cultivating there the entire time. Yu Rou and Mu Qing looked at the two of them being so intimate. For some reason, they felt a trace of envy in their hearts. This was especially true for Mu Qing. She didn't understand why she was envious. She clearly hated Zhao Fu, but in the end, Mu Qing discovered that it should be the power that Zhao Fu sealed in her body that had begun to subtly influence her. This had caused her to slowly fall in love with Zhao Fu. Thinking of this, Mu Qing was a little shocked. Just what kind of cultivation technique is this bastard cultivating? It feels too scary. Mu Xiao, on the other hand, was sitting next to his sister. He was a little embarrassed to look at Zhao Fu and his sister. After that, Zhao Fu arrived at another power. However, he did not stop there for too long. He continued onward and finally arrived at a divine kingdom level power. Zhao Fu's main goal in coming here was to gather information. After all, this faction was massive, and Zhao Fu could obtain the information he wanted. What Zhao Fu wanted was naturally information regarding the 10 types of Yin powers. The 10 types of Yin powers were Extreme Yin, Mysterious Yin, Moon Yin, Ghost Yin, Ice Yin, Earth Yin, Sex Yin, Wood Yin, God Yin, and Dark Yin. Now, Mu Xiang had Extreme Yin God power, Yu Rou had Moon Yin God power, and Mu Qing had Wood Yin God power. Zhao Fu still needed to find 7 other divine powers with Yin powers. Zhao Fu could not just rely on luck and hope that he would meet divine powers with these powers. Out of the 10 types of Yin powers, Sex Yin and God Yin powers were the hardest to find. If one did not specifically look for them, it would be impossible to find them by luck. After coming here, Zhao Fu obtained the information he wanted. He found information regarding the Earth Yin, Ghost Yin, and Earth Yin. First, there was information regarding the Earth Yin. There was a deep abyss here, and there was a terrifying evil god there. It was incredibly powerful, and ordinary creatures did not dare to go near there, or else they would die. That evil god's attribute was the Earth Yin attribute. If he could capture it, with how powerful it was, it should be able to satisfy Zhao Fu's requirements and provide him with a large amount of Earth Yin energy. However, it was said that it was quite mysterious. Most people had only heard that there was an evil god there, and did not know what it looked like. Zhao Fu could go and take a look later. The second was information regarding the Ghost Yin. There was a pair of male and female ghost gods here that had Ghost Yin energy. However, this pair of ghost gods were bandits who liked to intercept merchant caravans and ordinary godly spirits, kill them, and take their things. They had a very bad reputation and had done many bad things. A few factions were chasing after them, but the pair of ghost gods were not weak and were quite good at escaping, so they had not been captured yet. Zhao Fu had the people in the carriage wait at an inn while he went to capture the evil god and the pair of ghost gods. Moon god Sprout said shyly, "Be careful and don't run into any danger." Zhao Fu smiled and nodded before turning into a ray of light. Soon, he arrived at the side of the abyss, which was not far from the Royal Kingdom faction. Zhao Fu stood at the side and did not know how big the abyss was. It was completely dark inside and there was no light source, so he could not see anything. The wind was quite loud and sounded out within the abyss, as if countless demons were roaring. It was quite terrifying. Zhao Fu did not hesitate and flew towards the bottom of the abyss. He did not know how deep the abyss was, and Zhao Fu flew for more than an hour before reaching the bottom. There were only rocks here, and there was no grass or trees. There were no signs of life at all. Zhao Fu looked around before continuing onwards. A while later, Zhao Fu found that there were many broken blue vines on the ground, and there was still a blue liquid on them. He felt that someone had just been here and had fought with those vines. Zhao Fu frowned. Things had changed, so he continued onwards. As Zhao Fu continued onwards, more and more blue vines appeared on the ground, and they covered the ground. They were all broken vines that flowed with blue liquid and flew everywhere, looking quite disgusting. The person who had arrived felt quite powerful, and the vines were not able to stop him at all. They were easily cut into countless pieces by that person. Zhao Fu became more careful and continued onward. Boom! A white-clothed, white-haired young man gave off a holy aura as he held a saber. He vigorously slashed out, sending out a powerful divine light and a shocking aura as he slashed forwards. In front of him stood a woman with a mature figure. Her face was relatively beautiful, and only half of her skin was exposed. Only some of the important parts were covered by blue vines. Her long hair was also made of vines, and her hands and feet looked like roots. Chapter 1973. Zhao Fu did not know why the two of them had started fighting. The powerful divine light slashed towards the evil god, causing the evil god's expression to become quite unsightly. A head of green vine-like hair quickly grew out and blocked in front of the evil god, forming a defensive barrier made of vines. Chi, chi, chi! The divine light was quite terrifying and directly sliced apart the vines, causing blue liquid to fly everywhere. The evil god at the center of the barrier was sent flying and crashed against a mountain wall, coughing up a mouthful of blood. The white-clothed young man was expressionless as he held his saber and continued to rush at the evil god. The evil god understood that she was not a match for the white-clothed young man, so she sent a massive amount of power into the vine whip in her hand. The vine started to twist as if it had come to life, turning into a blue vine snake. Swish! The blue vine snake quickly flew towards the white-clothed youth. It was so fast that it left a blue afterimage in its wake. The white-clothed young man slashed out with his saber and a white saber light slashed out, cutting the blue vine into a few pieces. The evil god grasped this opportunity and quickly flew to the side. The white-clothed young man was too powerful, and she was not a match for him at all, so she could only choose to escape. The white-clothed young man revealed a trace of condescension and stretched out a hand. A wave of power flowed out and a white ray of light containing immense power shot out. Bang! The evil god was hit by the ray of light and crashed to the ground. She coughed up a large mouthful of blood and her face became pale. The white-clothed young man said coldly, "Do you think that a weak godly spirit like you is a match for me? Just stay there and I'll give you a quick death. Otherwise, I don't mind cutting you into 8 pieces." The evil god looked slightly afraid. Even though she was not a match for the white-clothed young man, she definitely would not just stand there and let him kill her. The evil god quickly flew to the side. Suddenly, she saw a person wearing a black cloak appear in front of her. The evil god did not hesitate. She just wanted to run or else she would die here. Scram! The evil god hurriedly cried out and waved its hand, sending out a powerful wave of divine power, bringing with it a gust of wind, towards Zhao Fu. Bang! The evil god did not expect the cloaked person to casually wave his hand and send out a wave of power that blocked her attack, resulting in a massive explosion. Before she could react, she saw that person grab at her, and a massive wave of power grabbed her body before quickly flying towards that person. The evil god was quite shocked. This person who had suddenly appeared was so powerful. The evil god's body quickly flew towards Zhao Fu, and Zhao Fu hugged her, causing the evil god to panic and try to struggle. Zhao Fu controlled a wave of 6 desires demonic qi and sent it into the evil god's hand, and sent it into the evil god's body into Fu's body. Zhao Fu gave a trace of a smile. This evil god had delivered itself to him and was injured, so he had easily subdued it. The them looked at the holy. And the Fu smiled and said the god. Evil Qin and looked at Qin and Fu Zhao Zhao Qin the demon god, Zhao Qin Zhao Fu smiled and looked at, and said, Qin, she's mine now. The evil god said somewhat angrily, Who gave you the guts to speak to me like this? The evil god could no longer control her body, and she hugged Zhao Fu and started to kiss Zhao Fu. Hearing Zhao Fu's words and what Zhao Fu was doing to her, she understood that Zhao Fu could save her. As such, the evil god panted and said, I'm willing to submit to you and serve you. Please save me. Zhao Fu smiled and nodded. He looked at the evil god and said with a trace of condescension and domineeringness, I don't care who you are, she's mine now. Boom. The evil god exploded out with a powerful aura, and he was like an enraged beast. He was incredibly fast as he rushed towards Zhao Fu, giving off an intense sense of suppression. Shing! A massive sound of metal clashing could be heard as the evil god slashed towards Zhao Fu with his saber. Zhao Fu slashed out with his sword, and the saber and sword gave off shocking power as they collided, causing sparks to fly everywhere. A powerful shockwave spread out and the ground instantly collapsed. The evil god looked quite startled and was quite surprised that Zhao Fu was so powerful and was not inferior to him. Following this, the evil god retreated, and his expression became serious. Zhao Fu's expression also became serious because the evil god was indeed quite terrifying. He felt that the evil god was not someone from an outer domain and most likely came from the center of the godly world. Zhao Fu wondered what sort of genius he was. After sealing the evil god's 6 desires demonic qi, the evil god returned to normal, and Zhao Fu said to her, Get away from here. The evil god nodded. She understood how terrifying their power was, and it was not something she could participate in. The evil god's expression was cold as she stared at Zhao Fu. Boom! An explosion sounded out as a powerful aura exploded out. An enormous white aura flame appeared around the evil god's body, and white light lit up the surroundings. Wild gales blew out and the ground cracked. Zhao Fu looked at the evil god seriously and sensed the evil god's power. He lightly cried out, Celestial mode, activate. Boom! A powerful aura exploded out from Zhao Fu's body as a rainbow-colored aura flame appeared around him. A rainbow-colored rune circle appeared around him, and wild gales blew out, causing the ground to crack. The 2 massive auras clashed together, resulting in a massive sound and an even more ferocious gale. Swish! Swish! The 2 of them instantly disappeared and reappeared in the middle. The white-haired young man held his saber and vigorously slashed towards Zhao Fu, while Zhao Fu vigorously slashed his sword towards the white-haired young man. Shing! The saber and sword once again clashed, resulting in a massive sound and sparks flying everywhere. The evil god clenched his other hand and a powerful wave of power gathered in his fist. His fist gave off an intense light as he vigorously swung it towards Zhao Fu. A gust of wind blew out from his fist. Zhao Fu gripped his other hand and a terrifying wave of power gathered, giving off a terrifying aura as he vigorously punched out, seeming as if it could destroy everything. Bang! The 2 fists clashed together, resulting in a massive explosion. A gale spread out and Zhao Fu took 2 steps back while the evil god took 4 steps back. Zhao Fu grasped this opportunity to attack first. He vigorously slashed out, and a massive sword light slashed towards the evil god. The evil god gripped his saber and swung out, sending out a powerful saber energy that shattered the black sword light. Roar! The white aura flame around his body quickly formed a white bull, which gave a roar and gave off shocking power as it charged at Zhao Fu. Chapter 1974. Boom! The bull was directly slashed apart and turned into a white aura that exploded out, giving off a massive sound as a powerful gale blew out. At that moment, the white-clothed young man leapt up and gripped his saber with both hands, sending all of his power into the saber. The saber gave off an intense white light that seemed to light up the entire abyss, and a shocking saber aura spread out. Boom! The white-clothed young man held his saber and gave off a shocking aura as he slashed down towards Zhao Fu. Zhao Fu raised his sword and lightly cried out, "Sword Lord Killer!" Boom! A berserk killing intent and sharp sword intent exploded out from the sword, giving off shocking power as they spread out. The ground continuously collapsed and the surrounding temperature plummeted. This was the power of the Sword Lord and Sword Lord Killer's powers fused together, and it restored that celestial killer sword intent. The white-clothed young man descended from above and arrived in front of Zhao Fu with his saber. Zhao Fu gripped his sword and slashed out with unimaginable sword energy. Bang! A shocking explosion sounded out as the two terrifying powers clashed together. A terrifying shockwave blasted out, causing the ground to collapse and everything to be reduced to dust. A ray of light containing terrifying power rushed out of the abyss and slammed into the sky, resulting in a massive explosion that caused clouds to swirl and the world to dim. The abyss was quite close to the royal kingdom, and sensing this terrifying aura, the general in charge of defending it looked quite grim and hurriedly reported this matter to his superiors because this aura was simply too terrifying. After receiving the news, the godly spirits quickly came over. From the general's explanation, it seemed that a terrifying battle had erupted out. The godly spirits thought about it and immediately made a decision. They went to the abyss to see just who was fighting and to give off such terrifying ripples. They did not believe that it was the evil god, as the evil god had given off such terrifying power. Over at the abyss, a 10,000-meter wide crater had appeared. A 10,000-meter wide crater had appeared on the ground and two people were fighting at the top of the crater. One wielded a white saber while the other wielded a black sword. Their weapons kept clashing and terrifying shockwaves spread out. The evil god looked at the two people in fear. These two people were simply too powerful, and their battle was incredibly terrifying. It was not a battle that she could participate in. This is a battle between true experts. A few godly spirits stealthily came to the abyss and looked at the two people fighting intensely, feeling quite shocked. One of the deities asked softly, "Who are they?" The battle that erupted was actually so terrifying, far stronger than our strength. Another godly spirit replied, "I have some impression of that white-clothed young man. He seems to be a very famous genius of the God World's central region. He's from the Holy Light God faction, which is an Emperor-level faction. Moreover, it's not an ordinary Emperor-level faction." Hearing this, a godly spirit said in shock, "How could such a prestigious person appear here? Also, who is the person fighting him? He should be a famous prodigy in the God realm, right?" The godly spirit next to him replied, "I don't know about that. It doesn't affect him at all, but his strength is quite terrifying. At the very least, he is no weaker than the white-clothed young man." One of the godly spirits said solemnly, "Those two people are too terrifying. We should leave as soon as possible to avoid attracting trouble." Hearing this, the godly spirits all nodded. This matter had nothing to do with them, and they did not want to get involved. Boom! Zhao Fu's sword brought with it a destructive power as it slashed out, slashing the white-clothed young man to the ground, opening up a large crater and causing rocks to fly everywhere. Arg! The white-clothed young man lay on the ground and loudly roared as his body exploded out with countless rays of white light, giving off shocking power as they quickly shot towards Zhao Fu, creating a shocking scene. Zhao Fu sent a powerful wave of power into the circle of runes around him, causing the runes to give off intense light and expand outward. They became twice as big and started to spin. Bang! 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 The white beams of light that shot over entered the range of the rune circle and were directly refracted by some sort of power, striking different places and causing explosions. Shing! At that moment, Zhao Fu raised his sword and a sword light shot into the sky. Heaven and earth power continuously gathered, and a terrifying sword formation giving off an extremely terrifying aura appeared. The surrounding air became incredibly cold, and it seemed as if it could cut people. Boom! 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 Zhao Fu slashed down with his sword and the sword formation started to spin. A destructive aura spread out as sword lights containing shocking power slashed towards the white-clothed young man. The godly spirits who had just left the abyss heard the massive explosions behind them and sensed the terrifying aura. Their hairs stood on end and they looked at each other. This battle was quite terrifying. However, the battle quickly calmed down and no longer gave off any shockwaves. Zhao Fu gave off an intense rainbow-colored light as he stood in the sky and looked down at the ground, searching for the white-clothed young man's figure. Zhao Fu understood that his attack just then would not have been able to kill the white-clothed young man. However, after searching for a while, Zhao Fu could not find the white-clothed young man, and he did not know what method he had used to escape. Zhao Fu could only dispel his celestial mode power and return to the ground. The evil god looked at Zhao Fu in awe. She had personally seen how powerful Zhao Fu was, and she was willing to submit to such a terrifying expert. Zhao Fu looked at the evil god and asked, "What's your name? Also, why did the white-haired young man want to kill you?" The evil god explained seriously, "I'm called Ting Zi. I don't know why that person wanted to kill me, but it seemed that he wanted to take a material from my body. That material seemed to be quite important to him." Zhao Fu felt quite startled and said to Ting Zi, "Come here then, I'll take care of your body." Hearing this, Ting Zi came in front of Zhao Fu. Zhao Fu stretched out a hand and sent out a wave of power into Ting Zi's body, but he did not find anything special. He felt quite disappointed and had thought that there would be something good. Perhaps the white-clothed young man needed to kill a godly spirit like Ting Zi to obtain a material from her body. Ting Zi had two attributes. One was a plant godly spirit, and the other was an earth-ean spirit. She was a relatively rare godly spirit. Zhao Fu did not want to stay here, so he decided to leave this place first. He did not know who that white-clothed young man was, and it would be too dangerous for him to stay here. Zhao Fu said to Ting Zi, "This is your place. If you have anything to pack, hurry up and leave with me." Ting Zi nodded seriously. Chapter 1975. Seeing that Zhao Fu had brought back another woman, Moon God Sprout rolled her eyes at Zhao Fu and said, "Why do you always bring back women? What's more, they're all quite good-looking and have such good figures." Zhao Fu lightly laughed, "You can't blame me for this. It might just be a coincidence. However, I feel that it's best for a godly spirit to be a woman because women have the Een attribute. When you fully awaken, they'll be the most useful." Moon God Sprout felt quite helpless, but seeing that Ting Zi had revealed most of her skin and only had vines covering her important parts, she said with a red face, "She can't be exposed like this." Zhao Fu smiled as he turned and said to Ting Zi, "Change your clothes." Ting Zi looked at Moon God Sprout and felt quite shocked at her beauty. From the way she had spoken to Zhao Fu, she was most likely Zhao Fu's legitimate wife. With Zhao Fu's terrifying power, it was understandable that he would have such a beautiful woman. Thinking about that, Ting Zi took out a cloak and put it on as she gave a trace of a smile, saying, "Hello. I'm Sir's concubine, and my name is Ting Zi." Now that she had become Zhao Fu's subordinate, she wanted to take her relationship with Zhao Fu to the next level. Moreover, she had already agreed to serve Zhao Fu, and Zhao Fu had always made her feel moved, making her want Zhao Fu greatly. As such, she directly admitted her relationship with Zhao Fu. Hearing that Ting Zi and Zhao Fu were in a relationship, Moon God Sprout angrily glared at Zhao Fu. She had thought that she was Zhao Fu's only woman, and seeing that Zhao Fu had brought back another concubine so quickly, she felt quite angry. She felt that she had been deceived by Zhao Fu and that he had not been faithful to her. Zhao Fu went up and hugged Moon God Sprout, and Moon God Sprout angrily struggled a few times before stopping. Zhao Fu smiled as he said, "Don't worry, your position in my heart will not change. You will also become one of my most important women. With the Moon God Sprout 10 immortal body, if she matures, her power will definitely be very terrifying. She will definitely become one of his most important women." Zhao Fu was actually more concerned about practicality. In terms of feelings, Zhao Fu felt a little numb, or maybe he didn't feel anything at all. Unless it was a woman who had been with Zhao Fu for a long time, or a woman who was very important to Zhao Fu and whom Zhao Fu gave special treatment to, the other women were very ordinary. Hearing Zhao Fu's words, the anger in Moon God Sprout's heart decreased, and she said coquettishly, "You're a fickle person." Zhao Fu did not continue this topic. He smiled and told everyone about what happened in the abyss. Moon God Sprout said in shock, "Is that person really that strong?" Zhao Fu smiled and nodded. "It's very likely that he came from the center of the divine realm. This place may become very dangerous, so you should hurry up and leave this place. I still have to catch the pair of divine bandit." Moon God Sprout said worriedly, "Be careful and catch up to us after you catch them." Zhao Fu smiled and nodded. Following this, Moon God Sprout and the others followed Zhao Fu's instructions and quickly left this region. They were Zhao Fu's weakness, and without them, Zhao Fu would not have to worry about anything. Zhao Fu's gaze fell on the pair of divine bandits. These divine bandits had been captured by many factions, and they were quite well hidden. It would be quite difficult to catch them. Zhao Fu decided to continue to collect information about them and think of a way to catch them. According to Zhao Fu's intelligence gathering, the two of them would disappear for a period of time after committing a crime. After the commotion died down, they would come out and continue committing crimes. It seemed that the two of them had just committed a crime, robbed a merchant group, and killed everyone. It would be quite difficult to find them, and he had to find them immediately. Thinking about that, Zhao Fu felt a headache coming on. Zhao Fu did not feel disappointed for long, and he soon received some good news. It was said that they had tried to steal an item many times but had not succeeded. That item was most likely very important to them, and if they could obtain it, they would be able to lure them out. That item was called the Dragon Phoenix Fruit, and it was a very precious spirit fruit. It was most suitable for dual cultivators, and after consuming it, it would give birth to Dragon Chi and Phoenix Chi. During dual cultivation, it would become a Dragon Phoenix Fruit, and it would increase the speed of dual cultivation by more than 10 times. To dual cultivators, this was incredibly attractive. Moreover, dual cultivation could improve one's physique. The woman would become more and more beautiful, and the man would become more and more powerful in that aspect. The Dragon Phoenix Fruit was quite attractive to them, but within this royal kingdom faction, Zhao Fu did not dare to do anything rash. Moreover, because the Dragon Phoenix Fruit had been stolen many times, the security was quite strict, and even if Zhao Fu wanted to steal it, it would be quite difficult. After thinking about it, Zhao Fu decided to head to the faction to see if he could exchange for the Dragon Phoenix Fruit. Zhao Fu came to the temple and felt quite surprised because the guards respectfully invited him in and did not stop him at all. It was as if they knew him and could not understand what was going on. In actuality, Zhao Fu did not know that after the battle had concluded, the godly spirits saw Zhao Fu head to their faction and felt quite nervous. They ordered people to keep an eye on Zhao Fu's movements. They could not afford to offend someone like Zhao Fu, who had terrifying power and a terrifying identity, so they naturally had to be careful. After hearing that Zhao Fu had come to find them, they immediately had people invite Zhao Fu in. Zhao Fu came to the hall. The godly spirits courteously walked out and smiled as they asked, "What business does Sir have with us?" Hearing this, Zhao Fu smiled as he said, Why do I feel like you all know me? The godly spirits smiled as they replied, We were fortunate to witness Sir's battle with another genius. Sir's power is quite great. Even such a famous genius in the god world was defeated by you. Zhao Fu understood what was going on. However, as he had been fighting with the white-clothed young man, he had sensed people approaching, but he had never thought that it would be these godly spirits. They seemed to know the white-clothed young man's identity and thought that Zhao Fu's identity was the same as the white-clothed young man's, which was why they were so courteous and respectful to him. This would bring him great benefits, so if he asked them to exchange for the dragon phoenix fruit, it would be easier for them to agree. Zhao Fu smiled as he said, I heard that you have the dragon phoenix fruit. This dragon phoenix fruit is quite important to me, so I came to ask if I could exchange it with something of equal value. The godly spirits could not help but laugh. Even though the dragon phoenix fruit was precious, it was not as prestigious as Zhao Fu's status. If they could use the dragon phoenix fruit to befriend Zhao Fu, they would naturally be very willing. Since Sir needs the dragon phoenix fruit, we are willing to give it to you. I hope Sir can accept it. Chapter 1976. Zhao Fu had thought that it would be quite difficult to obtain dragon phoenix fruits, and that he would have to pay a price at the very least. Zhao Fu gave a trace of a delighted smile as he said, Many thanks. Seeing that Zhao Fu was willing to accept their gifts, the godly spirits were naturally quite happy. They immediately had people bring over a mahogany box that was as wide as a palm. After opening the box, they found that there were 2 fruits, one red and one gold. The fruits were round and half as big as a fist. The golden fruit had dragon patterns on it, while the red fruit had phoenix patterns on it, and they gave off a faint light. One of the godly spirits took out the mahogany box and handed it to Zhao Fu. These are the dragon phoenix fruits that Sir needs. Zhao Fu smiled as he took the box and looked at it before putting it away and saying, Many thanks. The godly spirit said courteously, No need, sir, you're being too courteous. You're too polite. It's our fortune to be able to meet someone like you. Zhao Fu had wanted to take out a few decent pieces of equipment to exchange with the godly spirits, but this was a royal kingdom's faction, so they might not be interested in his equipment. After thinking about it, Zhao Fu smiled as he said, I'll remember this favor. If there's an opportunity, I'll definitely repay you. The godly spirits looked quite delighted. It was just a dragon phoenix fruit, yet it could make a terrifying person like Zhao Fu owe them a favor. This was simply too worth it, and it was more than 100 times more valuable than the dragon phoenix fruit itself. The godly spirits smiled as they said, It's just a dragon phoenix fruit. Sir, don't worry about it. You're a guest here, and we'll immediately order people to prepare some good food and wine to entertain you. Zhao Fu smiled as he refused, saying, There's no need for that. I still have things to do. The godly spirits asked curiously, What is it? Can we help? Zhao Fu thought about it. This godly spirit faction was the largest faction here, and with their help, everything would be much simpler. As such, Zhao Fu told his plan to the godly spirit. The few godly spirits smiled and agreed. They had not been serious about that pair of godly spirits, which was why they had not been able to capture them. With their strength, they would have been able to capture them long ago. This was a small matter, and the godly spirits wanted to give the order for everyone to search for the godly spirit pair. They would definitely be found soon, but the godly spirit pair did not dare to act rashly. However, Zhao Fu did not want them to do this, because the commotion would be too great. It was very likely that the pair of godly spirits would be scared away, and Zhao Fu's plan would fail. Now that he had the dragon phoenix fruit, he could lure them out. Zhao Fu had a plan, which was to let the divine spirit faction spread the news that the dragon phoenix fruit had been stolen. This dragon phoenix fruit was definitely very important to that pair of gods. If this thing had been stolen, they would immediately know, and they would even gather to search for the whereabouts of the dragon and phoenix to see who had stolen it. The news spread easily. However, this did not cause too much of a stir. Zhao Fu did not deliberately publicize this news, and most people did not care much about the dragon phoenix fruit. It was not something that could affect the godly forces, so most people did not care much about it. Within a hidden room, a voluptuous, beautiful woman with jade-like skin and a flirtatious aura sat on the lap of a skinny young man and said coquettishly, "Husband, what do you think we should do? The dragon phoenix fruit that we've always wanted was actually stolen by someone." The skinny young man said helplessly, "What can we do? We don't know who stole it. Otherwise we could just snatch it." The woman said coquettishly, "No. Husband, please think of a way. That thing of yours is getting worse and worse. Without the dragon phoenix fruit, it will be crippled sooner or later. What will I do then? You probably don't want me to find another man, right?" The skinny youth said angrily, "If that man dares to touch you, I will kill his entire family. I will make him beg for death." The woman had a trace of a smile on her face as she said, "Then why aren't you going to ask around? Otherwise, I'll find another man and hurry up. I feel that this is our chance. Maybe we'll be able to obtain that dragon phoenix fruit and we'll be able to dual cultivate as much as we want in the future." The skinny young man thought about how he could do it with the woman's body in just a few moves, and he grinned as he said, "All right. I'll immediately go and find out which bastard stole the dragon phoenix fruit." Following this, the skinny young man got up and left the room. The woman lay on the bed with one hand on her chest and the other on her lower body as she started to do indescribable things. The skinny young man could not do it, so she could only rely on herself to satisfy herself. Soon, the skinny young man returned with a happy smile on his face. Looking at how lewd the woman was on the bed, his eyes lit up and his body heated up as he leapt at her. However, he did not have the ability to do so. His originally happy mood had also turned into a sense of loss. The woman glared at the skinny young man and said angrily, "I already said that you can't do it anymore, yet you still interrupted me. If you continue like this, I'll really find another man." Hearing this, the skinny young man hurriedly said, "Wife, don't be like this. I've already found the location of the dragon phoenix fruit." Hearing this, the woman's anger somewhat eased as she said, "Then tell me where the dragon phoenix fruit is." The skinny young man smiled as he said, "After the dragon phoenix fruit was stolen, it was sold at a high price to a small merchant group. That merchant group knows that they can't keep the dragon phoenix fruit, so they want to sell it to another faction. Right now, that merchant group is heading towards that faction, and many people are fighting over the dragon phoenix fruit. We need to act quickly, or else it might be stolen by others." The woman said in delight, "All right, let's hurry then." A caravan of over 100 people hurriedly advanced on a flat piece of land, but a powerful aura descended. The person who had come was a big man with a beard. He stood in the air and gave off great power, but he was not a godly spirit. The big man looked at the merchant group on the ground and said condescendingly, "Hand over the dragon phoenix fruit and I'll spare your lives." A gray-robed elder walked out of the carriage and looked at the big man in the air as he smiled and said, "Sir, can you let us off this once? We're going to sell the dragon phoenix fruit to a very large faction. If they knew about this, they would definitely be very unhappy." The big man coldly harumphed, "I don't care if you're angry or not. Hurry up and hand over the dragon phoenix fruit, or else your elder will kill you all." The elder's expression was quite unsightly as he said, "Sir, let me think about it." The big man did not want to waste any more time. The burly man did not want to waste any more time. He knew that there were many people fighting over the dragon phoenix fruit. This dragon phoenix fruit was a very good treasure for dual cultivators. Chapter 1977. Boom. A powerful aura descended. It was a cold-looking young man. Seeing that the big man was trying to steal the merchant group, He directly attacked and slammed out with his palm, causing an eerie wind to rush towards the big man. The big man took out an axe and vigorously swung it, sending out an arc of light that slashed apart the eerie wind. He said furiously, "The dragon phoenix fruit is mine. You'd best not interfere, or else I'll make you die a horrible death." The cold-looking young man coldly harumphed, "Is that so? Let's see if you have the ability to take the dragon phoenix fruit." The big man roared and gave off a powerful aura as he rushed at the cold-looking young man. The cold-looking young man did not feel any fear and took out a sword as he gave off an eerie aura and rushed at the big man. Boom! Before the two of them could even fight, another powerful aura descended. It was an elderly woman who held a walking stick. Seeing that the big man and young man were about to fight, she ignored them and attacked the merchant group on the ground. The big man and young man immediately stopped. The big man vigorously swung his axe, sending out a powerful gale towards the elderly woman. The young man also swung his sword, sending out a sword light towards Zhao Fu and the elderly woman. Facing their attacks, the elderly woman could only stop and wave her walking stick, causing a green defensive barrier to appear, blocking the two attacks. However, many cracks appeared on the defensive barrier. The big man furiously said, "Old undying thing, you want to steal my things?" The elderly woman coldly replied, "You're just one of the people trying to steal the dragon phoenix fruit, and you still have the face to say that it's yours?" The big man domineeringly said, "If your elder says it's mine, then it's mine. Scram, or else your elder won't hold back." Boom! A powerful aura descended as a powerful gale spread out. A godly spirits might spread out, and the person who had arrived was a tall and slim woman with a cold expression. Sensing her aura, the three people's expressions fell. They had never thought that even a godly spirit would try to steal the dragon phoenix fruit. The woman coldly looked at the three people and said, "Do you want to leave or die here?" The three people sighed. Even though they were not weak, they were not godly spirits, so they could only give up. They could not defeat godly spirit. Boom! Boom boom boom. However, at that moment, 10 or so figures giving off powerful auras descended. There were men and women, old and young, and 2 of them gave off godly spirit auras. When the 3 of them saw so many people, a glimmer of hope appeared in their hearts. They still had a chance. The cold-looking woman frowned. She could not stop so many people by herself and said, "I'm from the Ice God Palace. My big sister is about to get married and the dragon phoenix fruit is a gift I prepared for her. Please give me some face and give me the dragon phoenix fruit." An ugly young man laughed loudly as he said, "Who knows what Ice God Palace is? I see that you're not bad. If you spend a night with me, I can give up on the dragon phoenix fruit. If you're willing to become my woman, I can even help you get the dragon phoenix fruit." The cold woman's face was filled with anger. "You're dreaming. You think you can be my man?" The young man was a little angry. "Is that so? Let's see how you beg for mercy when you're defeated by me." The cold woman held an ice sword and gave off an icy aura as she rushed at the ugly young man. The young man took out a pair of iron claws and savagely grinned as he rushed at the cold woman. The 2 of them started to fight, giving off loud sounds as powerful shock waves spread out. Both of them were godly spirits, and there was not much of a difference in strength, so it would be difficult to determine a victor in a short period of time. Everyone did not pay much attention to their battle and looked at the merchant group below. Their main goal was still to get the dragon phoenix fruit. However, just as everyone was about to attack the merchant group, "Arg!" a pained cry sounded out as everyone felt a sword pierce through their hearts. They saw 2 figures appear in the sky, one male and one female, giving off terrifying godly spirit auras. The other person held a spear that had already pierced through the other person's body. Everyone looked at the 2 who had appeared and felt quite shocked. These 2 infamous godly spirit bandits had actually come, and things had become quite dangerous. After all, these 2 godly spirits were not ordinary godly spirits, and their power was incredibly terrifying. Seeing the two people appear, the ugly young man and the cold woman stopped fighting and looked at the skinny young man and the woman with serious expressions. The skinny young man swung his spear and flung the corpse away as he said condescendingly, "Do you see this? This is your outcome, hurry up and scram." Some people looked quite afraid. They understood how terrifying these two people were. If they stayed here, they would definitely die. It was impossible for them to get the dragon phoenix fruit, so they could only plan to leave. Staying alive was more important. "A group of robbers wants to leave?" A voice that was neither loud nor soft sounded out in the air, giving off a formless might as it sounded out throughout the sky, causing everyone's expressions to fall. Boom! 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 Explosions sounded out as powerful auras appeared. Figures giving off powerful godly spirit auras appeared in the sky and surrounded everyone, causing the atmosphere to become quite heavy. Looking at the 20 or so godly spirits surrounding them, everyone's faces became pale and they felt terror. This included the skinny young man and woman. Everyone recognized these godly spirits. They were the godly spirits of the most powerful factions here, so why had they all appeared here? It was as if they had fallen for a trap. However, they were the most powerful faction here, so there was no reason for them to waste so much time and effort just to kill a few people. Some of the people who had come to steal the dragon phoenix fruit saw the godly spirits giving off terrifying auras and immediately ran, not daring to stay for even a moment. Within the 20 or so godly spirits, a middle-aged man with a mustache gave a trace of a smile as he looked at the merchant group's carriage and said courteously, "Friend, come out. We've helped you capture these people." Everyone's hearts once again sank as they looked at the carriage. Just who was within the carriage for the most powerful faction here to be so courteous? Moreover, it seemed that they had captured them for that person. The elder standing on the carriage gave a fawning smile as he pulled open the curtains. A black-cloaked figure giving off a mysterious and dignified aura walked out of the carriage. Zhao Fu walked out and looked around, and he found where the skinny young man and woman were. Chapter 1978. Immediately, the skinny young man and woman exploded out with auras as they ran. They knew that the person's target was them, and if they did not run, they would definitely die here. However, they were already surrounded by 20 godly spirits, and it would not be that easy for them to escape. Seeing the two of them charge at them, the godly spirits outside swung their weapons and a few powerful cold lights slashed out, giving off shocking power as they attacked the skinny young man and woman. The two of them immediately used their power to defend, but they were sent flying back and coughed up a large mouthful of blood, and their faces became pale. These godly spirits were godly spirits from royal kingdoms, and their power was not something that ordinary godly spirits could compare to. The godly spirits' attacks caused the people who had been planning to run to stop moving. The skinny young man's expression was quite unsightly and he understood that he could not escape, so he looked at Zhao Fu. He now understood that these godly spirits treated Zhao Fu as their master, and Zhao Fu could decide whether they lived or died. "Sir, I don't think we've offended you, right? Why have you captured us?" The others nervously looked at Zhao Fu. They understood that Zhao Fu could decide whether they lived or died, and they did not know how Zhao Fu would deal with them. Zhao Fu gave a trace of a smile as he said, "Nothing much. I just wanted to capture you two to see if you have ghost-ine power." The skinny young man and woman let out a sigh of relief. It seemed that Zhao Fu was not here to kill them. The woman coquettishly laughed as she said, "We do have earth-ine power. What business does Sir have with us?" Zhao Fu smiled as he said, "Come with me and become my slaves." The skinny young man and woman felt quite hesitant. They were used to being free and could do whatever they wanted and did not want to be bound by anything. Now that they were being asked to submit to someone else, they found this quite unacceptable. However, if they did not agree, they might die here. Moreover, it seemed that Zhao Fu's identity was not simple at all, and following Zhao Fu might bring them some benefits. This made them feel quite hesitant. Zhao Fu looked at the two of them and gave a trace of a smile. His eyes widened as a formless energy spread out. Clang, 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 chains shot out from the void, bringing with them a terrifying force as they flew out at an extremely fast speed. The two of them felt quite startled, but they were unable to resist and were bound by the chains. They desperately struggled but were unable to break free. Zhao Fu grabbed at the chains and pulled, bringing the two of them in front of him. The others in the sky did not know what Zhao Fu wanted to do, but they understood that Zhao Fu's target was not them. As such, they had a chance to survive. At that moment, Zhao Fu stretched out a hand and pressed it, and a formless energy flowed into her. Seeing this, the skinny young man hurriedly cried out, "We are willing to be your slaves. Please let my wife go." The voluptuous woman's expression was quite unsightly as she looked at Zhao Fu. Zhao Fu ignored his words and sent his power into the voluptuous woman's body. He found that she did indeed have ghost-in power, and he smiled as he sent a wave of 6 desires demonic chi into the woman's body. The skinny young man's face was red as he continuously twisted his body and made lewd sounds, telling Zhao Fu to quickly satisfy her. The skinny young man's face was red as he continuously twisted his body and moaned, telling Zhao Fu to quickly satisfy her. The skinny young man felt a wave of rage rush to his head, and his eyes seemed to bulge as he yelled, "Bastard! What did you do to my wife? I'll kill you!" Zhao Fu turned and coldly looked at the skinny young man, and a formless energy grabbed the skinny young man's head. Bang! An explosion sounded out as the skinny young man's head exploded, causing brain juices and blood to fly everywhere, and a bloody smell spread out. A divinity was grabbed by a formless energy, and it gave off a faint gray light as it floated in front of Zhao Fu. Zhao Fu waved his hand and put the divinity into his spatial ring. Everyone in the surroundings felt quite shocked as they watched Zhao Fu casually kill a godly spirit. Zhao Fu turned his gaze back to the skinny young man's body, and a wave of energy flowed out, sealing the 6 desires demonic chi within her body. The woman quickly returned to normal, and her face was still red as she panted. However, looking at the skinny young man's corpse, she could not help but start to cry. Zhao Fu said calmly, "You've done many bad things in the past, right? Now he deserves it. Also, I can keep his soul and give him a chance to be reborn, but you must listen to me." The skinny young man thought about it and stopped crying, and she nodded. Zhao Fu gave a trace of a smile and released the chains, letting the skinny young man down. The skinny young man obediently stood by Zhao Fu's side, but sensing Zhao Fu's aura, her body could not help but react. Zhao Fu looked at the sky, and the remaining people looked at the cold-looking woman's body. She seemed to be the ice god, but Zhao Fu did not know if she had icy-in energy. Seeing Zhao Fu look at her, the cold-looking woman's face became pale. Her strength was inferior to the skinny young man's, and the skinny young man had been killed so easily. She had not been able to resist at all. Clang, clang, clang. Just as she had expected, many chains shot out and bound her body before pulling her in front of Zhao Fu. Zhao Fu pressed his hand against her abdomen and sent a wave of energy into her body to see if she had icy-in energy, but he was disappointed. It was not that the cold-looking woman did not have icy-in energy, it was just that it was not very strong and could not be of much use. Zhao Fu remembered that she had an older sister who was most likely an ice god. He did not know if she had icy-in energy, so he looked at her and asked, "Does your older sister have icy-in energy? If she does, I can spare your life." Seeing that Zhao Fu had designs on her older sister, the cold-looking woman naturally did not want to say anything. The person in front of her was not a good person, and she did not want her older sister to fall into Zhao Fu's hands. That would be harming her older sister. Seeing that she was not willing to say anything, Zhao Fu stretched out his hand and turned it into many tendrils that wrapped around the cold-looking woman, and a powerful wave of demonic energy flowed into her body. The cold-looking woman quickly lost control of her body, and her consciousness started to fade. In the end, she was successfully controlled by Zhao Fu. After controlling the cold-looking woman, Zhao Fu started to read her memories and gave a trace of a smile. The cold-looking woman's older sister had powerful icy yin energy. Following this, Zhao Fu could continue to capture the cold-looking woman's older sister, and he would obtain another of the 10 types of yin energy. Zhao Fu looked at the people in the sky and said, "Two godly spirits, hand over your divine power. As for everyone else, you can leave." Chapter 1979. Finally, Zhao Fu brought the 2 women back to the meeting place with the moon god Sprout. At this time, a group of women were resting on a patch of grass. The carriage was parked beside them, and the 3 Luo brothers were standing on the side. Zhao Fu smiled as he landed on the ground. This time, he had not only brought back 2 women, but he had also brought back 20 divine power orbs. When the godly spirits heard that divine power was important to Zhao Fu, they condensed divine power orbs and gave them to Zhao Fu. Zhao Fu thanked them for this. These 20 or so divine power balls were stronger than the 40 or so divine power balls of ordinary gods, and they could make Zhao Fu's pantheon power even stronger. As for the 2 women, the voluptuous one was called Gui Xiaomei, and the cold one was called Bing Qing Shui. Seeing that Zhao Fu had brought back 2 more women, Moon God Sprout glared at Zhao Fu and did not want to say anything. She now understood what sort of person Zhao Fu was. Zhao Fu smiled and explained what happened next. Now that he knew that Bing Qing Shui's sister had the ice yin energy, the next step was to capture her sister, so he had to head to the Ice God Palace. The Ice God Palace wasn't here but somewhere else. It wasn't very strong and only had a world-grade faction. Zhao Fu told the Moon God Sprout to wait for him while he went to the Ice God Palace to capture Bing Qing Shui's sister. The Moon God Sprout nodded, looking a little angry. Zhao Fu did not say anything else. He brought Bing Qing Shui and turned into a ray of light, disappearing into the horizon. Currently, Bing Qing Shui was still under Zhao Fu's control. Her expression was cold. Everything else was normal. After Zhao Fu left, Moon God Ye looked at Gui Xiaomei and could tell that she was not a good woman. She asked angrily, "Are you that bad person's concubine?" Gui Xiaomei understood why Moon God Ye was angry. She was not a pure-hearted woman, and now that she had submitted to Zhao Fu, she naturally had to plan for the future. She lightly smiled as she said, "I'm not that lord's concubine, don't worry." Moon God Bud's expression eased a bit, but she didn't continue to say anything. Gui Xiaomei smiled as she said, "You're that lord's wife? It's the first time I've seen such a beautiful woman." Moon God Bud felt quite embarrassed after hearing Gui Xiaomei praise her like this. Gui Xiaomei continued to talk to the Moon God Sprout, trying to curry favor with it. She was able to easily gain its trust, and their relationship became much better. A day later, Zhao Fu brought Bing Qing Shui to the Ice God Palace of Moon. The various buildings here were basically made of ice. The temperature was relatively cold, but not many places were frozen, and some places were still green. Under Zhao Fu's Bing. Of Kingsoff of the Bing Saint. And the Fu of Qingshui had, he said, the Bing Snow. Under Zhao Fu's control, Bing Qing Shui returned to her normal appearance. This was because Zhao Fu had obtained all of her memories and could imitate her. Ordinary people would not be able to discover her. Bing Qing Shui understood what Zhao Fu wanted to do, and within her body's consciousness she begged Zhao Fu, "Please, don't do anything to my big sister. I'll do anything you want me to do, please let my big sister go." Zhao Fu ignored her and controlled her body to come to the Ice God Palace. At this time, the Ice God Palace was quite lively. There were pots of flowers and ribbons on the roadside, and there were many people on the streets with smiles on their faces. Zhao Fu understood the reason. The commoners were preparing for the big miss of the Ice God Palace to marry another faction's young master in a few days. That young master was quite handsome and had decent talent. His faction was about the same as the Ice God Palace, and their statuses could be said to be well matched. They were both noble and outstanding. However, the two of them were not willing to marry each other. Instead, it was a marriage to deepen the cooperation between the two factions. There would be many benefits, and it would also be a powerful helper. This wedding was beneficial to everyone, and no one objected. The commoners were quite happy. Seeing Zhao Fu control Bing Qing Shui, everyone bowed. Zhao Fu controlled Bing Qing Shui and calmly nodded before going to the Ice God Palace and heading to where Bing Qing Shui's big sister was. They came to a classical room, and there was a tall woman with a cold face and icy long hair. She looked quite similar to Bing Qing Shui, and she wore a white robe. She sat on a chair and looked at a painting in her hand. Big sister, what are you looking at? Zhao Fu controlled Bing Qing Shui to give a trace of a smile as she walked up. Bing Qing Shui's big sister was called Bing Lengling. She raised her head and looked at Bing Qing Shui as she said coldly, "Nothing, why are you here?" Zhao Fu controlled Bing Qing Shui to smile as she said, "Big sister, I have something very important to do, and I need you to go somewhere with me. Is that all right?" Bing Qing Shui looked straight at Zhao Fu and did not directly reply to Zhao Fu. Zhao Fu's heart sank. Could Bing Lengling have seen through something? This was the Ice God Palace, and if they were discovered, Zhao Fu would have to leave immediately, or else he would be caught. Bing Qing Shui's consciousness yelled in her body, telling her big sister not to agree. Someone else was controlling her body, and that person was incredibly dangerous. She told her big sister to leave and call someone over. However, her consciousness was in her body, and no matter how much she yelled, no one could hear her. Bing Lengling looked straight at Zhao Fu and thought for a while before slowly saying, "All right, let's go." Zhao Fu let out a sigh of relief. He would be able to catch her after calling her out. Suddenly, a handsome young man wearing purple clothes walked into the room and looked at Bing Qing Shui and Bing Lengling as he gave a gentle smile. "Where are you going?" This person was Bing Lengling's fiancée, and she had a gentle personality and was quite popular. Just as Zhao Fu controlled Bing Qing Shui to explain, Bing Lengling said coldly, "It's nothing. I just want to leave." The purple-clothed young man sighed as he looked at Bing Lengling and said apologetically, "I'm sorry." Zhao Fu felt quite startled, and Bing Lengling could tell that Zhao Fu had only said that he needed to take her somewhere, while Bing Lengling was saying that she wanted to leave the Ice God Palace. Bing Lengling expressionlessly said, "No need to apologize. Since you don't like me, there's no need for us to be together." The purple-clothed young man said apologetically, "If you leave, you'll have to bear everything. That's very unfair to you." Chapter 1980. The purple-clothed young man said helplessly, "All right then. If you have any problems in the future, you can come to me and I'll do my best to help." Her face was ice-cold as she responded indifferently. Zhao Fu's mind was in a mess and he didn't understand what was going on. Icy Ling seemed to have noticed that something was wrong, but why did she want to leave with him? What was going on between Icy Ling and the purple-clothed young man? Now that Zhao Fu was left alone by the two of them, he felt quite awkward. Icy Ling looked at Zhao Fu and said coldly, "Hurry up and go." Zhao Fu came back to his senses. Although he didn't know what Icy Ling's intentions were, since she was willing to follow him, Zhao Fu wouldn't be polite. As soon as they arrived outside the Ice God Palace, Icy Ling coldly asked, "Who are you? Why did you control my little sister to lure me out? Now that we're out of the Ice God Palace, you don't have to worry about anything." Hearing this, Zhao Fu couldn't help but smile and asked, "How did you find out?" Icy Ling coldly said, "From the moment you walked in, I knew that you weren't my little sister. Although you acted very well, you weren't. My little sister and I grew up together, so you couldn't fool me." Zhao Fu smiled as he said, "Then why did you come out after knowing that I wasn't your little sister?" Aren't you afraid that I'll kill you? Icy Ling expressionlessly replied, I don't care what your intentions are. If you threaten me with my little sister's life, I'll still leave with you. I don't want to waste any more time, and all of this is meaningless. Zhao Fu looked at her and lightly laughed. You're quite direct, but I can tell you that my goal is to use your Icene power and won't harm you. Icy Ling nodded. Then when will you let my little sister go? Zhao Fu smiled as he said, Come with me. I'll let your little sister go when we get there. Following this, Zhao Fu controlled Bing Qingshue's body and brought Icy Ling to where his main body was. Zhao Fu's main body gave a trace of a smile as he walked out. Icy Cold's expression became serious. No wonder he could control her little sister. Zhao Fu's power was incredibly terrifying. Zhao Fu came to her side and said with a smile, Now, I will leave a restriction in your body. Lung Ling thought about it and nodded in agreement. Zhao Fu stretched out his hand and a wave of 6 desires demonic chi flowed out and entered Icy Cold's body. Icy Cold immediately felt a wave of heat, and her ice-cold face became slightly red. However, Zhao Fu quickly sealed that power and Icy Cold returned to normal. Lung Ling asked angrily, You didn't violate my sister's body, did you? Zhao Fu chuckled, Don't worry, I'm not that kind of person. Lung Ling also found it hard to believe, because it was unknown how many women a person with such power had played with. Zhao Fu did not explain further and withdrew his consciousness from Bing Qingshue's body. Bing Qingshui regained control of her body and leapt into Lung Ling's embrace, crying guiltily, Big sister, I'm sorry that you fell into that bastard's hands. At this moment, Lung Ling gave a trace of a smile, looking incredibly beautiful, like melting snow in spring. It's all right. Did he hurt you? Bing Qingshui shook her head. He didn't hurt me and only controlled my body, but he caused you to become his. Now you can't even get married. Lung Ling smiled as she said, He has someone he likes and I don't like her either. It's impossible for us to be together, and I also plan to leave. This is a good opportunity. Bing Qingshui felt less guilty, but she still said worriedly, But you're going to follow that bastard. You don't know that he has many women, and he's simply a pervert. I'm worried that it won't be good for you to stay with him. Zhao Fu felt somewhat displeased. What's bad about me? Most women don't even have a chance to stay by my side. Alright, since you're useless to me, you can go back. Bing Qingshui said angrily, I'm not going back. I'm going to follow my big sister. I definitely won't let you bully her. Zhao Fu did not mind as he said, Let's go together then. Bing Qingshui gave a trace of a smile as she hugged Ling Ling's arm and followed Zhao Fu. Boom! Suddenly, a massive aura spread out as a figure appeared in the sky. It was a middle-aged man with short, icy hair. He looked at Lung Ling and Bing Qingshui coldly. Where are you going? Lung Ling and Bing Qingshui's expressions changed as they looked up at the sky. The person who had just arrived was the Ice God Palace's master, Lung Ling and Lung Ling's father. Hearing her father's words, Lung Ling returned to her usual coldness and said, I want to leave this place and won't marry him. The middle-aged man replied coldly, I also told you that it's good for everyone if you marry him. Also, who is that man? At that moment, the middle-aged man coldly looked at Zhao Fu. Just as Lung Ling was about to say something, Zhao Fu spoke first. Now that your daughters are mine, you should go back. They can't go back. Boom. Hearing that his 2 daughters had become a woman that he did not even know, the middle-aged man became extremely furious and released a terrifying aura. An extremely cold power spread out, causing the sky to freeze. Seeing their father release his full power, Lung Ling and Bing Qingshui looked slightly fearful. They were not a match for their father. The middle-aged man angrily yelled, Do you know who they are? Do you know how noble they are? Do you think you're good enough for them? You dare to say such things? Zhao Fu looked slightly disdainful. Boom! An even more powerful aura exploded out from Zhao Fu's body, forming a shockwave that spread out. A transcendent saint's power caused the surrounding space to seem to be locked. Divine bloodline. Sensing Zhao Fu's divine bloodline, the middle-aged man was so scared that his body went limp and he almost fell from the sky. Leng Leng and Bing Qingxue looked incredibly shocked. Normally, a person with a royal bloodline was much more noble than them and was someone they had to respect. If it was a sovereign bloodline, they could only look up to it and would not dare to offend it. Now they were facing a divine bloodline that reigned above sovereign bloodlines. This was a massive blow to them, and if they had not seen it with their own eyes, they definitely would not have believed it to be true. Zhao Fu calmly looked at the middle-aged man and asked, "Do I have the right now?" Chapter 1981. Zhao Fu was not interested in saying anything else. He looked at Bing Cold and Bing Qingxue, who were looking at him in shock, and said, "Let's go together." The two of them came back to their senses, and Bing Qingxue said in shock, "Are you really the legendary Holy Sun?" Zhao Fu glanced at her and said, "I told you that most women want to stay by my side. Did you think I was lying?" Bing Qingxue felt quite displeased. Bing Ling pulled her little sister and said calmly, "Let's go together. If you don't want to leave, you can stay here." Hearing this, Bing Qingxue gave a trace of a smile and said, "I don't want to, I want to be with Big Sis." Bing Ling also gave a trace of a smile before turning to look at the middle-aged man and saying, "Father, we're leaving. If we have time, we'll come back. With this Holy Sun here, you don't have to worry about us." The middle-aged man dryly laughed and nodded. He had been quite angry and wanted to take Bing Ling back, but he had never thought that a Holy Sun would suddenly appear. After all, with Zhao Fu's status as a Holy Sun, he did not dare to offend him. Otherwise, it would be even more terrifying than offending an empire. However, for them to follow a Holy Sun was far better than marrying someone from a faction of the same level. Perhaps their faction would receive some help from a holy faction, and thinking about that, the middle-aged man could not help but feel excited. That was a legendary terrifying force. Even a powerful empire could easily destroy it. Seeing the three of them leave, the middle-aged man gave a trace of a smile and turned to leave. Zhao Fu returned to where Moon God Sprout was and saw that Gui Xiao Mei had settled their relationship. The two of them were sitting together, and it seemed that Moon God Sprout was quite pure. Seeing that there was another woman by Zhao Fu's side, Moon God Sprout was only a bit dissatisfied and did not mind. She understood Zhao Fu. Zhao Fu walked to her side and stretched out a hand as he smiled and said, "We can go now." Sitting on the ground, Moon God Sprout gave a trace of a smile and grabbed Zhao Fu's hand before standing up. Then, the group continued on their way. Zhao Fu sat in the carriage and continued to devour divine power. Beside him, Mu Xiang was also cultivating. Zhao Fu found a piece of lunar jade for her, which could greatly increase Mu Xiang's strength, and at the same time, increase her aptitude. This piece of lunar jade was something that they had obtained from Gui Xiaomei's husband. They had gone around fighting for it, and there were some good things, but now, everything belonged to Zhao Fu. 2 days later, Zhao Fu and the others arrived at the Divine World's inner reaches. Zhao Fu found an inn and had everyone rest. Zhao Fu also took a comfortable hot bath and changed into a new set of clothes. Seeing that the women had not finished grooming themselves, Zhao Fu walked out of the inn alone, intending to see how different the scenery in the inner domain of the Divine World was from the outer domain. There was still a long way to go before the King of Pantheon trial, so Zhao Fu was not in a hurry. Walking on the street, looking at the various people around him, as well as the many strange goods displayed on the roadside, Zhao Fu showed a hint of interest, and continued to look at those things. Suddenly, Zhao Fu heard a commotion in front of him, and immediately walked forward. The place was already surrounded by people, and he did not know what was going on. He came to the periphery of the crowd. He saw a young man being beaten up by a few people. The young man was already lying on the ground, curled up and his head was still bleeding. Beside him was a young man dressed in luxurious clothes, laughing wildly. Ha ha ha, lowly people will always be lowly people. Living is a waste of food. Beat him hard, beat him to death. The people around him looked angry, whispering to each other, but did not dare to step forward to stop them. Zhao Fu found out what happened from their mouth. It seemed that the young man who was being beaten just now, because he was in a hurry, bumped into the young man in luxurious clothes, and then this happened. The young man in luxurious clothes was not simple, he was the son of this faction's god. The young man on the ground was bleeding, moaning in pain. His aura was weak, and if they continued to beat him, he would probably be beaten to death. The people beating him did not show any signs of stopping, because the young man in luxurious clothes had given the order to beat him to death. Stop! A cold-looking young man dressed in black clothes and giving off a powerful aura stood out and said coldly. The people stopped and looked at the young man in luxurious clothes. The young man in luxurious clothes called out unhappily, "Who are you? Do you know who this young master is? Be careful, or I'll skin you alive." The cold-looking young man coldly harumphed and waved his hand, sending a formless slap against the young man's face, sending him flying back. "Do you know who I am? You dare to speak to me like this?" The young man in luxurious clothes looked like he was in pain as he covered his left cheek and glared at the cold-looking young man angrily. "Who cares who you are? You hit me in my father's territory, so you're dead. Hurry up and kill him." Hearing this, the thugs looked at the cold-looking young man and hesitated. From the aura that the cold-looking young man gave off, they knew that they were not a match for him. However, even though they were not a match for him, they still listened to the young man in luxurious clothes and prepared to rush at the cold-looking young man. The cold-looking young man did not show any fear and took out a violet command medallion. This command medallion was made of metal and was circular. There was a throne engraved on it, and it gave off a king's aura. Seeing this command medallion, the thugs who were about to attack the young man were so scared that their faces became pale and they quickly knelt on the ground. The young man in luxurious clothes looked on in disbelief, but he also knelt on the ground in fear, and his body slightly trembled. The people nearby were given a big fright and also knelt on the ground. Apart from the cold-looking young man, only Zhao Fu remained standing. Everyone else knelt on the ground in fear. Seeing that Zhao Fu was standing there stupidly and not kneeling, someone pulled on Zhao Fu's cloak and reminded him, "Why aren't you kneeling yet? This is the King God Command Medallion, and it represents King God." Zhao Fu felt quite surprised. He had heard of King God before. King God was a king among godly spirits, and the conditions for becoming one were incredibly difficult. It was not like the Heaven-Awakened world, where anyone could establish a small kingdom and become a king. King gods had to rule over many godly spirits and reign above them in order to become a king god. After becoming a king god, one's power would greatly increase. Not only would one obtain a king god bloodline, but they would also obtain king god power. Apart from king gods, there were also emperor gods and emperor gods. The conditions for becoming a king god were the same as king gods. They had to rule over many godly spirits in order to obtain such a terrifying status. Chapter 1982. Desolate gods already had the king god bloodline, which was why they had the ability to create blood god demons. Otherwise, ordinary desolate gods would not have this ability. Now that the cold-looking young man had taken out the king god medallion, this meant that he was a king god. He was a god who ruled over 1,000 powerful godly spirits, and he was even more powerful than ordinary royal kingdoms. Facing this medallion, everyone could not help but feel afraid. The well-dressed young man was just an ordinary godly spirit's son, and he did not dare to resist the king god medallion at all. After all, even his father had to kneel before the king god medallion. The cold-looking young man held the medallion and frowned as he looked at Zhao Fu. Almost everyone else had knelt, and only Zhao Fu was standing there by himself. It was difficult not to notice him. Zhao Fu's expression did not change, and he calmly stood there. The cold-looking young man felt quite confused. Just who was this person? He did not even kneel after seeing the King God medallion. This represented King God's might, and anyone who saw the King God medallion had to kneel. Only someone who was as noble as King God could ignore the King God medallion. What kind of person was this? The cold-looking young man looked at Zhao Fu seriously and asked, "Who are you? Why aren't you kneeling after seeing the King God medallion?" Zhao Fu looked at the cold-looking young man and lightly laughed as he said, "It's just the King God medallion. Why should I kneel?" The cold-looking young man felt quite startled. This is the first time I've seen someone who dares to look down on the King God medallion like this. Looking at the mysterious aura that Zhao Fu gave off, the cold-looking young man could not help but wonder just who Zhao Fu was. Hearing Zhao Fu's words, the commoners kneeling in the surroundings were given a big fright and ran far away. Their first impression was that Zhao Fu was an incredibly noble person, and they were afraid of offending Zhao Fu. Secondly, anyone who dared to speak to the King God medallion like this would have a terrible ending, and they did not want to suffer the same fate. The well-dressed young man and his subordinates looked at the two people nervously. Why had these two terrifying people suddenly appeared? If they had known, they would not have come out today. Now, the cold-looking young man was in a difficult position. If Zhao Fu's status was not lower than Wang Shun's, then he would be in big trouble if he attacked Zhao Fu. However, if Zhao Fu dared to look down on the King Divinity medallion without any status, that would be an enormous humiliation that he absolutely could not tolerate. Just like that, the scene quieted down. No one dared to make a sound. Suddenly, a painful voice rang out. It was the voice of the young man who was lying on the ground. He was extremely weak and was on the verge of death. The cold-looking young man was not a bad person, or else he would not have saved the young man. Seeing that the young man was about to die, the cold-looking young man did not think too much and went up to pick him up. He stretched out his hand and sent a wave of power into the young man's body, starting to heal his injuries. However, the youth's injuries were too severe. The callous youth's power was not suitable for healing injuries, causing the youth's injuries to heal rather slowly. If this continued, the youth would still die. Lingu did not give up. He increased the power injected into the youth's body and continued to heal the youth's injuries. "Get out of the way!" A calm voice suddenly sounded out. The callous youth looked at Zhao Fu, who was walking over, in surprise. He understood that Zhao Fu wanted to save the youth, so he put the youth on the ground and stood to the side. He also wanted to see just how strong Zhao Fu was. Zhao Fu's eyes fell on the youth's body and he stretched out a hand towards the youth. Boom! A massive wave of power surged out like a tidal wave and wrapped around the youth's body, causing the youth's body to automatically float in midair and give off a faint light. Zhao Fu stretched out his hand and pressed down again. An even more powerful wave of power surged out and entered the youth's body. The youth floated in midair and gave off an intense light. A powerful aura spread out, forming a strong wind. The people in the surroundings were immediately shocked. Feeling that terrifying power, their bodies went cold. A wave of fear surged out from their hearts, and their bodies could not help but tremble. This power is so terrifying. The callous youth looked at Zhao Fu in shock and rejoiced that he had not clashed with Zhao Fu. Otherwise, he might have died here. Zhao Fu's power not only had destructive power, but it also had powerful healing power. Under the support of Zhao Fu's power, the youth's injuries quickly healed. Not only that, but his talent was also increasing, and some of the impurities in his body were also being expelled. Soon, the youth woke up. Feeling that he was in midair, the youth started to panic. Zhao Fu stopped and the youth fell back to the ground. The youth understood that it was Zhao Fu who had saved him and knelt on the ground gratefully. "Thank you, sir, for saving my life." Zhao Fu said calmly, "No need to thank me. It was the person next to you who saved you. Otherwise, you would have died long ago." Hearing this, the youth knelt on the ground and immediately turned to the callous youth. "Thank you, sir, for saving my life." The callous youth said calmly, "It's just a small matter. You don't need to thank me. Just take care of yourself in the future." Seeing that the youth had been saved, the callous youth prepared to leave. Seeing that the callous youth was about to leave, the skinny youth mustered up his courage and said, "Sir, I want to follow you. I want to follow you. Can you agree? I can take any kind of hardship and can do all kinds of things." The youth had no parents and lived on the street. Now that he understood that this was a massive opportunity, he wanted to follow the callous youth and obtain power so that he would not have to endure the cold and hunger. As for why he chose the callous youth and not Zhao Fu, it was because of the way they spoke. Zhao Fu felt that the youth's power was terrifying and that he was extremely dangerous. He did not seem like a good person. On the other hand, even though the callous youth looked cold, he was actually very kind. He was someone who was cold on the outside but warm on the inside, so he chose the callous youth. At the same time, he felt that only the callous youth could take him in. It was impossible for Zhao Fu to take him in. The callous youth frowned as he looked at the youth and said, "Are you sure you want to follow me? Staying by my side will be very tiring, and you won't be able to go back on your word." The youth looked up with a resolute expression as he looked at the callous youth and nodded seriously as he said, "I'm willing to follow, sir." The callous youth gave a trace of a smile as he said, "Then you can follow by my side from now on." The youth nodded in delight and gratefully kowtowed to the callous youth a few times. The youth felt quite startled. He had just been about to kill this youth, and now that this youth had such a terrifying person protecting him, wouldn't that mean that he would be in danger? The youth and his subordinates all looked quite nervous as they looked at the callous youth and the youth, praying that they would not kill him. However, the callous youth did not have such intentions and left with the youth. Chapter 1983. Everyone nervously looked at Zhao Fu and prayed that he would leave. At that moment, a light flashed in the young man's mind. If that young man could follow the cool-looking young man, then why couldn't he follow this young man? Putting aside his status, he was more powerful than the cool-looking young man. If he could follow such a person, it would be a massive opportunity and would bring him all sorts of benefits. Thinking to there, the young man looked incredibly excited and respectfully knelt on the ground as he called out to Zhao Fu, "Sir, I also want to follow you. I can take any hardship and do all sorts of things, and I swear to be loyal to you. My talent is much better than that boy's, so please take me." Zhao Fu condescendingly looked at the young man and said, "Scram? Otherwise I'll kill you right now." The young man felt quite afraid and hurriedly got up from the ground and ran away, not daring to stay for even a moment longer. His subordinates hurriedly followed behind him. Zhao Fu looked at the commoners kneeling on the ground and did not dare to stand up in fear of him. He did not want to continue walking and turned to leave, returning to the inn. "Big sister, you're so pretty. Can you be my big sister?" Next to a table, a very sweet-looking 5-year-old girl with her hair in a braid hugged Moon God Sprout's arm as she said coquettishly. Moon God Sprout happily smiled as she replied, "That's fine." The little girl gave a brilliant smile as she said in a tender voice, "Really? I'm so happy to have such a pretty big sister like you." Moon God Sprout also liked this little girl and rubbed her tender cheek. At that moment, Zhao Fu returned and saw this scene. He walked over to the table and looked at the little girl suspiciously, as well as the woman in black who gave off a heroic aura, and asked, "Who are they?" Moon God Sprout smiled as she explained, "They're people we just met and live next door. This little girl is called Shin Shao Yi and that's her guard, Wu Yi." Shin Shao Yi hugged Moon God Sprout and looked at Zhao Fu with her large eyes as she asked, "Big sister, who is he?" Moon God Bud's face turned red. "He is my fiancé." Shin Xiaoi cried out before hugging the moon god Sprout and looking at it hopefully. Big sis, you're mine. I don't want you to be another man's. Moon god Sprout shyly smiled and said, That won't do. Shin Xiaoi pouted in disappointment and hugged moon god Sprout's arm, looking quite angry, but also quite cute. Wi's eyes looked at Zhao Fu. From the expressions of everyone just now, they all regarded Zhao Fu as their leader. She did not know who Zhao Fu was. Aside from a little boy who was a few years old, everyone else was a god. Zhao Fu's identity was not simple. She needed to observe carefully in case Zhao Fu turned out to be a bad guy. At this moment, Gui Xiaomei stood up from her chair with a charming smile on her face. She stepped forward and pulled Zhao Fu's hand. Sir, please sit down and eat with us. You must be hungry. Zhao Fu gave a trace of a smile and sat down at the table. Gui Xiaomei smiled and sat by the side, taking food and pouring wine for Zhao Fu, looking incredibly gentle and considerate. Seeing this scene, the women found that they did not know how to serve a man and gain his favor, and they felt a trace of jealousy. Take off your cloak and let me have a look. I want to see if you're good enough for my big sis. My big sis is the most beautiful person I've ever seen, Shin Xiaoi said as she pointed at Zhao Fu. Zhao Fu lightly laughed as he replied, No. Shin Xiaoi said angrily, Why? I'm Wang Shen's precious daughter. Can't I look at you? Everyone present looked quite shocked as they looked at Shin Xiaoi. They had never thought that her identity would be so prestigious. Facing everyone's shocked gazes, Shin Xiaoi proudly raised her head and smiled. Zhao Fu felt quite startled and smiled as he said, So what? You're just Wang Shen's daughter. Shin Xiaoi was quite dissatisfied with Zhao Fu's attitude. She was Wang Shen's daughter, and her identity was incredibly prestigious. However, Zhao Fu's attitude was just so. I'm a bit angry. Apologize to me, or I'll teach you a lesson. I'm very powerful. Shin Xiaoi said angrily. Moon God Sprout did not want Shin Xiaoi and Zhao Fu to have a conflict, so she took out a spirit fruit and smiled as she said, All right, don't continue like this. Big sis will give you a spirit fruit to eat. Shin Xiaoi looked at Zhao Fu and lightly harumphed before turning and smiling as she took the spirit fruit and said to Moon God Sprout, Thank you, big sis. Moon God Sprout lightly smiled as she nodded. At that moment 2 more people walked in. One was dressed in black and had a cold expression, while the other was also dressed in black and was a skinny and weak-looking young man. They were the cold-looking young man from before. The cold-looking young man looked at Zhao Fu and Shin Xiaoi sitting together, as well as the women around them, and he looked quite surprised. He came to Shin Xiaoi's side and said respectfully, Young master, I've come back with a young man. I'm back, and I've brought back a young man. I think he's not bad, and he can be trained. Shin Xiaoi happily ate the spirit fruit and nodded her head without any hesitation. Zhao Fu turned and looked at the cold-looking young man. He had been quite curious as to why someone said that she was Wang Shen's daughter and why someone had held the Wang Shen medallion. Now, it seemed that the cold-looking young man was just one of Shin Xiaoi's personal guards, and the Wang Shen medallion belonged to Shin Xiaoi. He was not Wang Shen's son. Zhao Fu turned to look at the cold-looking young man and did not pay him much mind before looking away. The cold-looking young man brought the skinny young man over to Wu Yi's side and asked in a small voice, What's going on? Wu Yi explained what had happened and asked curiously, What is it? You seem to know him. The cold-looking young man explained what had happened. Wu Yi's expression became serious. That man is quite unexpected. Perhaps his identity is even more terrifying than our young master's. No wonder his fiancée has peerless looks. It's a pity that he's been wearing a cloak the entire time and we don't know what he looks like. Perhaps he knows the identity of the person in front of him, the cold-looking young man said in a small voice. Let's take the young master and leave later. This kind of person is too dangerous, and I'm worried that something will happen to the young master. Wu Yi frowned as she said, I'm afraid that won't work. It seems that the young master likes them a lot, and if she doesn't want to leave, we can't force her. Let's wait and see how things develop. Chapter 1984. After eating, Zhao Fu and his people prepared to leave. Xin Xiaoyi hugged the moon god Sprout and asked curiously, Big sis, where are you going? Can you bring me along? Seeing that their young master wanted to follow a terrifying person like Zhao Fu, Fog E and Fog 5 immediately said, Young master, it's best not to trouble others. It's best not to trouble others and cause trouble for them. Xin Xiaoyi said angrily, I'm so cute and obedient, how could I cause trouble for others? Moreover, Big Sis and I just got to know each other, so I can't bear to part with Big Sis. Big Sis is mine. After saying this, Xin Xiaoyi hugged the moon god Sprout and looked at her pitifully. Big Sis, can you bring me along? The moon god Sprout gave a trace of a smile and looked at Zhao Fu. Zhao Fu thought about it. They were not going to the center of the god world to do anything secretive, and perhaps this god king's daughter would be of some use, such as obtaining 1,000 godly spirit power. If you want to bring her along, then bring her along. I have no objections. The moon god Sprout happily smiled. She thought that Zhao Fu would not agree, and if Zhao Fu did not agree, she could only refuse Xin Xiaoyi. We're going to the center of the god world. If you're willing, you can come with us, the moon god Sprout said as she smiled. Xin Xiaoyi said happily, We're also going to the center of the god world to see the god trial. Big sis, are you also going for this? The god trial was something that the entire godly spirit world knew about, and it was one of the most important things in the godly spirit world. All sorts of geniuses and famous people gathered at the center of the god world. This was not a secret. The god trial was something that the entire godly spirit world knew about, and it was one of the most important things in the godly spirit world. All sorts of geniuses and famous people gathered at the center of the god world. This was not a secret. Following this, everyone continued on their journey. Now that everyone was sitting in the carriage, there seemed to be quite a few people. This carriage was originally Moon God Sprout's carriage, so they had not considered having so many people. If more people joined the party, they would need to use another carriage. Back when they had gone to Outlander 10 College, Zhao Fu had built a massive and luxurious carriage that could hold 30 or 40 people. They could do whatever they wanted within it, and those days were quite nostalgic. In the carriage, Mu Xiang continued to sit at the side, cultivating with her eyes closed. Seeing her working so hard, Zhao Fu was very satisfied. Mu Xiang was now using the lunar jade to cultivate. Adding on her own physique, her growth rate was extremely fast. She should become a powerful god spirit in a short period of time. Zhao Fu was also thinking about what to do next. He did not need to worry about divine power, as the divine spirit world was filled with divine spirits. Zhao Fu only cared about the 10 great Yin powers. Now there were Extreme Yin, Mystic Yin, Moon Yin, Ghost Yin, Ice Yin, Earth Yin, Wood Yin, God Yin, and Dark Yin. Zhao Fu had also collected Extreme Yin, Moon Yin, Ghost Yin, Ice Yin, Earth Yin, and Wood Yin, 6 types of Yin powers in total. He was still missing 4 types of Yin powers before he could help the moon god Sprout awaken the 10 Yin celestial body. This progress was not slow, and he was quite close to awakening the 10 Yin celestial body. Hurry and run! A wave of panicked and terrified cries sounded out, causing Zhao Fu to frown as he walked out of the carriage. He saw many residents running over in terror, and some of them were injured. There were roughly 100 people in total. Zhao Fu looked at Zhao Fu and saw that Zhao Fu was in a panic. There were also loud cries coming from behind them, as if something was chasing after them. The commoners ran in front of Zhao Fu's carriage and sensed Zhao Fu and the 3 brothers' auras. They immediately knelt in front of Zhao Fu in delight and said, "Lord glorious God Spirit, please save us. There are many monsters chasing after us." Zhao Fu's expression was calm, and he was about to ask what was going on. Roar, roar, roar. Roars sounded out as leopard-like creatures appeared. They had scales and were jet black all over. Their gazes were cold and they gave off a darkness aura, and there were over 1,000 of them. Seeing Zhao Fu's group, the group of darkness beasts did not feel any fear and gave off ferocious auras as they charged at Zhao Fu's carriage. Zhao Fu looked quite disdainful and he waved his hand, sending out a massive wave of energy that quickly flew towards the darkness beasts. Chi, 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 the darkness beasts that rushed over were torn apart by the massive wave of energy, causing blood to fly everywhere and howls to continuously sound out. In just an instant, the darkness beasts had all been torn apart, and their corpses and blood covered the ground, creating a bloody scene. Thank you, Lord God Spirit, for saving our lives. We are willing to worship you. Seeing that countless darkness beasts had been killed, and that they had escaped this calamity, the commoners respectfully and happily spoke to Zhao Fu. Zhao Fu looked at them and said, I don't need worshippers. Also, tell me what's going on. The leader was an elder who looked to be in his 50s, and he said to Zhao Fu, We were villagers here. There's a land of darkness here, and these monsters live within. Originally, these monsters wouldn't leave the land of darkness, but for some reason, all of the darkness beasts ran out. Not only do they kill people, but they also kill all creatures. Many innocent people in our village have died at their hands. Zhao Fu thought for a moment before saying, This is a land of darkness, so perhaps there are things related to the Yin attribute. Out of the 10 Yin attributes, there's still the dark Yin attribute that we haven't obtained yet. You can leave, Zhao Fu said calmly. They were just a group of ordinary people, and Zhao Fu could not take them with him. After all, they were a bunch of burdens. The commoners felt quite disappointed. Without the protection of a powerful godly spirit, they would not be able to resist any dangers. The elder knelt on the ground and begged, Lord Godly Spirit, since you've saved us, please take responsibility for us. We have nowhere else to go, please take us in. Zhao Fu frowned, feeling quite uncomfortable hearing this. I saved their lives, but I still have to take responsibility for them? Zhao Fu was not interested in paying attention to this group of foolish commoners and was about to leave. However, the elder then said, Lord Godly Spirit, I know a secret, and this secret is very important. If you take us in and give us food and power, I can tell you. Zhao Fu's eyes became slightly cold as he looked at the elder. What right do you have to negotiate with me? Swish, 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 a few pale white roots shot out from the ground and wrapped around the elder, causing him to cry out in fear. Lord Godly Spirit, you can't attack commoners like us. You're a kind godly spirit and I'm an old man. Is it appropriate for a godly spirit like you to kill a weak old man like me? Let me go this time, I'm willing to tell you the secret. Chapter 1985. Zhao Fu didn't want to pay any more attention to the old man. He felt a little disgusted. A huge amount of demonic energy poured into the old man's body, easily controlling the old man's body, and began to read his memories. Just now, he said that he knew a big secret. Zhao Fu was also curious about what that secret was. After a while, Zhao Fu understood what the secret was. This secret was that the old man knew that there was an unknown existence sealed in the land of darkness. This existence had a kind of power, and that was the power to make people gods. To be more precise, it was something similar to gods. And the power this thing possessed could not be compared to a true god, but it had some kind of ability that gods could weaken by many times. They had existed here for hundreds of years. They had plenty of food and clothing here. There were no wild beast attacks, no natural disasters, and their lifespans had also increased. It could be said to be a paradise. However, this paradise, the beautiful and peaceful scene on the surface, was built under bloody and cruel methods. Because they had mastered the method to become similar to divine power. This method was to capture a girl under the age of 18 every 10 years, and she must still be a virgin. Then, dig out the girl's eyes, cut off her ears, and cut off her nose. Then, sew her mouth with a needle and thread, and insert 2 corks into the girl's ears to block the 2 ear holes. Normally, the corks would be inserted very deeply, directly puncturing the eardrums, turning the girl into a deaf person. After doing all of this, he had to ensure that the girl was conscious and would not die. This would make the girl clearly experience intense pain, but it was not over yet. Next, they would cut off the girl's hands and feet and help her stop the bleeding to prevent her from bleeding to death. Finally, he dug a large pit in the ground of the village, buried the girl in it, and licked the soil he had brought back from the land of darkness. What he had to pay attention to was that he had to bury the girl alive and not let the girl die. They would bury the girl underground and then insert 2 tubes into her nostrils to provide her with air to breathe. For this, a small tree would be planted on it, and the small tree must also be a tree from the land of darkness. When the girl was buried in the ground, she would endure countless pains and die with a strong resentment. Under the nourishment of the land of darkness, a strange divine power would be formed and fuse into the small tree planted on it. The small tree absorbed that strange god power and became a big tree that emitted that strange god power to protect the village. Therefore, there were no attacks from wild beasts in that village. They had a bountiful harvest and lived a carefree life. The villagers were naturally happy and healthy. Originally, the old man would only say that the land of darkness had this ability, and would never say what they had done. If Zhao Fu hadn't read the old man's memories, he would never have known what they had done. The villagers knew what had caused the current situation. It wasn't like they didn't know anything about it. Because of the cruelty of the method, the young women had to endure intense pain. Naturally, no one in the village would offer their own women as sacrifices, so they would usually find young women from other villages. Some were sold from other places, some were cheated, and some were directly snatched. This kind of thing had been going on for hundreds of years, but recently there was a change, and it was this change that led to the current situation. In order to maintain the peace and prosperity of the village, the villagers followed the method passed down by their ancestors and continued to capture young girls as sacrifices. However, because of an accident, the young girl that had been captured from another village died and could no longer be used as a sacrifice, because the sacrifice required a fresh life. Everyone had no choice but to continue searching for suitable young girls. They had enjoyed the protection of divine power for hundreds of years, and they didn't want it to be broken in this year, nor did they want their peaceful and prosperous life to be broken. At this time, a family came to join the village. There were a total of 4 people in this family. There was a father, a mother, an elder sister, and a younger brother. The elder sister was just 17 years old. She was good-looking and also a virgin. She was very suitable as a sacrifice. The villagers happily accepted the sacrifice that had been delivered to their doorstep. It was impossible for them not to attack her. The villagers pretended to welcome the family and even prepared a room for them to settle down. When the deadline was up, the villagers rushed into the house and arrested the family of 4. The family of 4 still didn't understand what was going on. Why did the villagers who were usually friendly and gentle to them now become so ferocious and terrifying, like demons? The villagers naturally didn't want to explain anything and directly brought the family to the side of the divine tree. There was not just one divine tree but 32 of them, which represented 320 years. All of the trees were very thick and had lush leaves. The trunks were black and the leaves were white, and they gave off a strange and dark aura. The elder in front of Zhao Fu was the village chief from before. He tied the young girl to the divine tree and planned to dig out her eyes, nose, and ears. At that moment, an old scholar said that the more hatred a young girl had, the more divine power she would give off. Everyone wanted more divine power so that they would receive more benefit. Everyone quickly thought of a way to increase the young girl's hatred, which was her family. The villagers stripped off the clothes of the young girl's father, mother, and little brother before tying them to a pillar and placing them in front of the young girl. Following this, they used all sorts of cruel methods to torture the three of them. For example, they used red-hot iron to brand the three people's bodies. When the hot iron touched their bodies, it sizzled and gave off white smoke. They also used small knives to cut off pieces of flesh from the three people's bodies and sprinkled a large amount of salt on them. Then, he used pliers to pull out the teeth of the three people one by one. Then, he pulled out the fingernails of their fingers and toes. Finally, he used pliers to pull out the fingers and toes one by one. The scene was incredibly bloody and cruel, and the young girl's parents and little brother continuously gave off pitiful cries, causing people's minds to ache. The surrounding villagers did not feel any pity or sympathy when they saw this scene, and they instead looked at the young girl with anticipation and excitement. The young girl was tied to the tree, and seeing her parents and little brother being treated like this, she looked incredibly savage. Tears continuously flowed out of her eyes as she madly howled like a beast that had lost its mind. The villagers all smiled. This was the effect they wanted. Seeing how hateful the young girl was, this year's divine power would definitely be more powerful than before. When that time came, everyone's lifespans would increase, and the crops in the fields would increase. Chapter 1986. The men and women all had smiles on their faces and held all sorts of things in their hands: needles, threads, knives, scissors, bandages, etc. These were all things that could be used on the young woman's body. These people had some experience. They had used the young woman's corpse as a sacrifice before to prevent anything unexpected from happening. They gave confident smiles as they walked towards the young woman tied to the god tree. They believed that if they could do this, they would be the heroes of the village and would be respected by everyone. Suddenly, the young woman, who had been howling in pain, lowered her head and powerlessly fell to the ground, losing all signs of movement. This made everyone feel quite surprised. Why had there suddenly been no movement? Just as they wanted to go up and see what was going on. Boom! 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 Explosions sounded out as the god trees gave off countless strange auras and flooded towards the young woman like floodwaters. Arg! The god trees gave off the young woman's howls, which were filled with extreme pain, despair, and hatred. The extreme rage seemed to be able to tear the sky apart, and it was incredibly terrifying. At that moment, the young woman, who had not moved at all, slowly raised her head, revealing a pair of pure black eyes that were like magatama. Her expression was cold as she looked at everyone without a trace of emotion. Facing this pair of eyes, countless people felt as if they had fallen into boundless darkness. They felt an intense sense of terror, and their bodies continuously trembled. The elderly man understood that the situation had changed, and his expression was quite unsightly as he hurriedly called out, "Hurry and kill her, don't hesitate." Hearing the village chief's words, the people who had been walking towards the young woman did not hesitate and took out knives and scissors as they rushed towards the young woman. They could not allow such a beautiful existence to be destroyed by this young woman. Seeing the people rush over, the young woman did not show any expression and just stared at them. Chi, 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 a formless energy spread out and grabbed the people's hands, feet, and heads. It vigorously pulled them into the air before ripping off their hands, feet, and heads, causing blood to fly everywhere. Seeing this scene, the others felt quite shocked. They had never thought that the young woman would suddenly have such terrifying power. The elderly man's face was pale, but he still called out, "Hurry and kill her. As long as we kill her, everything will be resolved." Seeing that the young lady was tied to the tree and unable to move, the crowd mustered their courage and charged toward her. At this moment, cracks appeared on the god trees one after another. It was pitch black inside, and darkness beasts rushed out from within. Roar! The darkness beasts rushed out and let out howls, then ferociously charged towards the villagers. Seeing such a terrifying monster attack, Countless villagers were so frightened that they immediately ran away, causing the scene to descend into chaos. The darkness beasts looked cold. Regardless of whether it was the elderly, children, men, or women, they all tore at them with their sharp claws. Blood splattered everywhere, and miserable screams sounded out. Organs and corpses could be seen everywhere. It was like hell on earth. The village was originally a very large one with a population of 6,000 to 7,000. In the end, only a little more than 100 people managed to escape. The rest had basically died in the village. This was what had happened. Zhao Fu understood everything by reading the old man's memory. Ah! Why are there still these monsters? A terrified cry sounded out. The villagers who had not run far saw the darkness beasts appear again, and they ran towards Zhao Fu in fright. They gathered near the carriage and looked around in fear. Darkness beasts appeared in all directions, coldly looking at the carriage. There were roughly thousands of them. However, they did not dare to directly attack because they knew how terrifying Zhao Fu was. With a casual wave of his hand, he had killed 1,000 darkness beasts. If they charged over, they would be killed by Zhao Fu in a few moments. As such, they did not directly attack. At that moment, the darkness beasts made way, and a person with the upper body of a young lady and the lower body of a darkness beast walked out, savagely looking at Zhao Fu. "This has nothing to do with you. Scram or I'll tear you apart." The monster furiously roared at Zhao Fu. Zhao Fu gave a trace of a smile as he said, "I don't mind if you kill these people, but you overestimate your strength. Do you think you're a match for me?" Boom! The monster did not say anything and exploded out with a powerful aura as it shot out like a cannonball towards Zhao Fu. Zhao Fu stood on the carriage and did not move at all. The monster quickly arrived in front of Zhao Fu, and Zhao Fu clenched his fist and punched out. Boom! A massive power blasted out, hitting the monster's chest, sending it flying back and heavily crashing onto the ground. It rolled a few times before stopping and coughed up a mouthful of blood, and its body became somewhat illusory. Zhao Fu's eyes narrowed as he saw this scene. Roar! 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 The surrounding darkness beasts started to attack Zhao Fu from all directions, and they were incredibly fast. Zhao Fu was expressionless as he stretched out a hand and grabbed, causing a massive wave of power to flow out. Clang, 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 chains shot out from the ground, piercing through the darkness beasts' bodies, causing blood to fly everywhere and howls to continuously sound out. In just an instant, thousands of darkness beasts had died. Zhao Fu looked at the monster and said, "You won't be able to hold on for much longer. When that time comes, you'll lose all reason and become a pure monster. Only I can save you. I don't have any conditions. I just want you to submit to me and provide me with darkness-in energy. What do you think?" Just then, when Zhao Fu had punched the monster's body, he had found that there was a very powerful darkness-in energy within her body. It fulfilled the requirements for one of the 10 types of in energy. "Kill you, kill you, kill you!" The monster did not listen to Zhao Fu at all and lowered its body, looking incredibly savage as it stared at Zhao Fu and continuously roared. Swish! The monster gave off a ferocious aura as it continued to rush at Zhao Fu. It was incredibly fast, even faster than before, and it left behind afterimages. In just an instant, the monster reached Zhao Fu and raised its claws, giving off immense power as it grabbed towards Zhao Fu. Zhao Fu grabbed out with his hand and a sword appeared in his hand. He sent a powerful wave of power into the sword, causing it to give off an intense sword light as he vigorously slashed out. Shing! A massive black sword light containing terrifying power slashed out, slashing the monster in half. The monster looked quite confused as its body turned into countless traces of black aura and dissipated. Chapter 1987. Zhao Fu said to the people in the carriage, "I have some matters to take care of, so I'll be leaving for a while. Wait for me here." Understood. Everyone nodded because they had heard what had happened outside through the window and knew that Zhao Fu was going to resolve this matter. Seeing that the monsters had been dealt with, the residents in the surroundings started to run away. They understood that Zhao Fu was not a kind person and the village chief seemed to have been controlled by him. They had just run back because of the monsters, or else they would not have run back. Zhao Fu looked at the fleeing residents expressionlessly, and a wave of demonic energy flowed out and flooded towards the villagers. These villagers were just ordinary people and could not resist the demonic energy at all. Their bodies froze and their gazes became dull, and they were easily controlled by Zhao Fu. Zhao Fu led the villagers and the village chief towards the village. A while later, Zhao Fu came to the village. The ground was in a mess, and there was blood and torn corpses everywhere. There were men, women, old and young, and the scene was incredibly gory and gave off an intense stench of blood. Zhao Fu did not mind this and brought his people in front of the god trees. He saw that there was a 17-year-old girl on the tree at the center. Her back seemed to be stuck to the tree, and the rope binding her had been broken. Her body seemed to have been devoured by the tree. The divine tree was indeed devouring the young girl. The divine tree gave the young girl an evil and strange power. At the same time, it was destroying the young girl. If this went on, the girl would be devoured by the god trees and die, or she would fuse with the god trees and become a part of them, becoming a monster without any intelligence. In front of the tree at the center, there were 3 pillars on which 3 naked people were bound. There was a middle-aged man, a middle-aged woman, and a young boy. The god trees were covered with wounds and their heads drooped powerlessly. However, what surprised Zhao Fu was that the 3 people were not dead and still had some auras. However, they were incredibly weak and could die at any moment. Zhao Fu took out 3 bottles of water of life and a formless energy pulled out the corks. 3 pure streams of water giving off green light floated out of the bottles and floated towards the 3 people, fusing into their bodies. Boom! A rumbling sound rang out as Zhao Fu stretched out his hand and pressed down. A massive wave of power flowed into their bodies, rapidly healing their wounds. It was visible to the naked eye that their wounds were rapidly healing, and the fingers and toes that had been pulled out were also rapidly growing back. When their injuries had stabilized, Zhao Fu stopped and walked to the girl's side. At this moment, the young lady's back merged into the divine tree. Her head drooped powerlessly, as if she was already dead. There was no movement at all. As Zhao Fu tried to get closer, the 32 trees gave off formless ripples, and a powerful and strange power once again flowed into the young woman's body. The girl, who looked like she was dead, suddenly raised her head and looked at Zhao Fu with a ferocious expression. "I'm going to kill you!" A dark aura continuously flowed out from the young woman's body, causing the surrounding temperature to plummet. This power gave off a dark and strange aura, causing people's hairs to stand on end. Cracks once again appeared on the trees, and a dark aura flowed out as countless darkness beasts rushed out. Zhao Fu was expressionless as the golden pupil in his left eye quickly spun and chains containing immense power shot out from the ground. Countless chains tightly bound up the trees, and a powerful aura suppressed all of the trees. The cracks on the trees disappeared, and the dark power that was emitted also slowly receded. The young woman regained some of her rationality and was no longer as crazed and savage as before. However, she still looked furious as she said, "Why did you save them? You're with them. I'll definitely kill you." Zhao Fu rolled his eyes at the young woman as he said, "I just happened to save them. Also, you controlled those darkness beasts, but they attacked my carriage. How could I be with trash like them?" The young woman looked quite startled as she looked behind Zhao Fu and saw the villagers standing there like blocks of wood, as well as the village chief whom she hated the most. Seeing them, the young woman's expression once again became savage, and her jade-like eyes were filled with hatred. However, she then looked at her parents and little brother, who had recovered from their injuries, and her heart trembled. The savageness on her face disappeared, and her hateful gaze became gentler. She looked at Zhao Fu and asked, "Were you the one who saved them?" Zhao Fu gave a trace of a smile as he said, "That's right. Their injuries have mostly healed, and they'll wake up soon. I'll leave those villagers to you as well." A layer of mist appeared in the young woman's eyes as she said gratefully, "Thank you." Zhao Fu smiled as he said, "No need to thank me. Saving your parents and little brother, and handing over the villagers to you, I have my own motives. I want you to submit to me and become my subordinate." The young woman had thought that her parents had died, and hearing that they would wake up soon, she did not hesitate and agreed. It was all thanks to Zhao Fu that they would wake up soon. Zhao Fu felt quite surprised. He had never thought that things would be so simple. Looking at the young woman fusing with the tree, Zhao Fu said, "Now that you've fused with the god tree, tell me what's going on." The young woman nodded and said, "I can sense that strange, dark power from the god tree continuously flowing into my body. This power is incredibly terrifying, and if it wasn't for you sealing it, I wouldn't have been able to control it at all. The god tree is currently devouring my body, wanting to fuse me with it. I can't stop this devouring, and my back has already fused with the god tree." Zhao Fu started to think about how to deal with this. Now that the young woman's body had fused with the god tree, if the god tree was damaged, the young woman would also be damaged. Soon, Zhao Fu thought of an idea. "Later, I'll send some power into your body, and you can use this power to devour the god tree. This is the best way to save you, and when the time comes, your power will greatly increase." Zhao Fu's eyes lit up as he looked at Zhao Fu. The young woman did not want to be devoured by the god tree, so she replied seriously, "I understand." Zhao Fu came to the young woman's abdomen and pressed a hand against it, and a massive wave of power flowed into the young woman's body. A black and profound magic formation gave off a faint black light and appeared at the young woman's abdomen. Chapter 1988. All of the power had formed a black vortex, and the young woman controlled the black vortex and started to devour the god tree's power on her back. The god tree's power continuously flowed into the young woman's body, and the black vortex's power became stronger and the suction force became greater and greater. Sensing that the young woman wanted to devour it, the god tree became furious and gave off an intense darkness aura. It gave off a howl that sounded like the young woman's howls, and a formless shockwave spread out. Fortunately, the god tree's branches were bound up by chains, and a powerful suppressive power suppressed the god tree's power. As such, even though the god tree was furious and gave off a terrifying darkness aura, it did not affect the young woman much. The young woman continued to devour the god tree's power. An hour or so later, the god tree's leaves started to wither and fall. The tree trunk became withered and the life force it gave off became less and less, and a deathly aura spread out. Boom! When the god tree's final trace of life force was devoured by the young woman, the god tree became a dead tree. The young woman's body gave off a powerful darkness aura, and her body gave off a black light. The young woman's body started to go through changes. Her black hair quickly grew out, and her looks became more beautiful. What was noteworthy was that at the center of her forehead there was a white vertical eye, and at the center of the vertical eye was a black magatama. She originally had a pair of black magatama eyes, but now those magatama eyes had disappeared and her eyes had become a pale white color. Her body gave off a strange, dark, and cold aura, and it was quite powerful, making people feel quite afraid. Now that the god tree had become a dead tree, the young woman's back separated from the tree trunk, and the connection between her and the dead god tree was severed. Zhao Fu felt quite surprised at the young woman's changes. He withdrew his hand from her abdomen and stopped sending power into her body, and the black magic formation disappeared. "How do you feel now?" Zhao Fu looked at the young woman and smiled as he asked. Now that the young woman had devoured the god tree's power, She could control that darkness power and was not affected by it. She smiled as she said, "I feel very good. My body has gone through changes, and I now have great power. This is all thanks to your help. Without you, I would have been devoured by the God tree." Zhao Fu smiled and said, "Since you're willing to submit to me, I will naturally not ignore you. Also, I will now leave a restriction within your body. Prepare yourself." The young girl responded. Zhao Fu stretched out a hand and a massive wave of 6 desires demonic chi flowed out and flowed into the young woman's body. The young woman blushed. She hadn't expected that the preparation Zhao Fu was talking about would be like this. After leaving restrictions in the young girl's body, Zhao Fu pulled back his hand and said with a satisfied smile, "There are still 31 God trees. You can absorb all of their power, don't waste it." The young woman smiled and nodded. She came before a God tree and stretched out a hand and pressed it against the tree trunk. A massive suction force spread out and the God tree's power was continuously devoured by the young woman. Because there were so many chains suppressing it, the divine tree did not have much resistance and could only let the girl devour its power. At a speed visible to the naked eye, the divine tree quickly withered and its leaves fell. In the end, it became a dead tree without any signs of life. After absorbing the divine tree's power, the young woman could not help but look quite pleased. Her body gave off a faint black light and the black aura around her became even denser. Another small black magatama appeared in the pale vertical eye on her forehead. After absorbing the divine tree's power, the young woman went to another tree and pressed her hand against it, continuing to devour the divine tree's power. As the young woman devoured the divine tree's power, Zhao Fu put her parents and little brother down from the pillars and had them lie on the ground. He then took out a few pieces of clothing and covered them. Time gradually passed, and the young woman continuously devoured the divine tree's power. The divine trees withered one by one and turned into dead trees. Finally, the young girl came before the largest God tree. This God tree was 5 meters wide, and it was over 40 meters tall. Its canopy was as large as a cloud, and it gave off the strongest darkness aura. This divine tree was the oldest and had 320 years of history. It was the first divine tree. Zhao Fu had obtained the village chief's memories, and did not know how the village chief's ancestors had obtained such a cruel and bloody secret technique to nurture such terrifying divine trees. The young woman stretched out her hand and continued to devour the divine tree's power. The massive divine tree gradually withered and its power continuously flowed into the young woman's body. In the end, the divine tree withered and became a dead tree. All of its leaves fell off and the branches were bare. The young woman's body gave off an intense dark light as her body once again went through changes. 2 short bone horns grew out of her head, and her long black hair reached her calves. Before, she could only be called pretty, but now she could only be described as peerlessly beautiful. She was only slightly inferior to the moon god Sprout. What caught people's attention the most was the pale white vertical eye between her brows. Now, 32 small black magatama had appeared, forming 3 circles, one surrounding the other. The strange dark aura that the young woman gave off became even more intense and gave off an oppressive feeling. Boom! A massive explosion sounded out as a wave of darkness aura flooded out like a heaven-toppling flood, and nothing could stop it. Zhao Fu's expression fell as he looked at the horizon, which was covered by countless traces of black aura. Countless traces of powerful darkness energy rushed over, and sensing this terrifying aura, the countless creatures in the surroundings quickly ran away in fear. That was the forbidden region, the darkness region. It seemed that this divine tree was closely related to the forbidden region, or else the divine tree's death would not have caused such a massive ripple. Countless traces of ferocious black aura did not flow out, as if there was a formless barrier that blocked the darkness aura. There was indeed a powerful sealing force here that sealed the land of darkness. the light from the young woman's body disappeared, and she returned to normal, and the darkness aura in the sky quickly dissipated. Zhao Fu looked at the young woman's appearance. Even though she looked like this, the bone horn on her head, the vertical eye on her forehead, her pale eyes, and her jet-black hair would not disappear. Even though the young woman's power was not at the godly spirit level, it was not any weaker than ordinary godly spirits. The darkness energy within her body far exceeded the requirements. Chapter 1989. Zhao Fu gave a pleased smile, and as if he had forgotten to ask for the girl's name, he asked, "What's your name?" The girl smiled as she replied, "My name is Yi Lan Shi." "I got it." Zhao Fu smiled as he replied. At that moment, the three people on the ground slowly opened their eyes and immediately cried out in terror. Yi Lan Shi hurriedly went up to comfort her parents and little brother. Seeing the massive changes in Yi Lan Shi, her parents and little brother did not recognize her at first and asked who she was. Following this, Yi Lan Shi explained everything in detail, and only then did the three of them believe that Yi Lan Shi was their daughter and big sister. The three of them quickly put on their clothes and pulled Yi Lan Shi to kneel on the ground. Their eyes were filled with tears as they said to Zhao Fu in gratitude, "Thank you, sir, for saving our lives. In the future, we're willing to do anything to repay sir." If it wasn't for Zhao Fu, their entire family would have died, and they would have died very miserably. Their gratitude towards Zhao Fu could not be described with words. Zhao Fu lightly laughed and had them get up. Following this, Zhao Fu found out their names. Their father was Yi Long, their mother was Yi Xiaolan, and their little brother was Yi Jun. "What do you plan to do with these people?" "They're only under my control, and they still have their consciousnesses." Zhao Fu smiled as he pointed at the villagers and asked the Yi family's people. The Yi family's people all looked furious and hateful. They could still remember how these people had tortured them, and that intense pain was still fresh in their minds. If it was a normal situation, they might have given up. However, they definitely would not forgive such immense hatred, and they wanted these people to die. At that moment, Zhao Fu stopped using his demonic energy and stopped controlling the villagers, allowing them to regain their consciousnesses. After the villagers regained their consciousnesses, they looked at the Yi family's people in terror and hurriedly knelt on the ground and begged for mercy. "Please have mercy and let us go this time. We won't dare to do it again, please. Yi family's people, I treated you well in the past and even gave you meat to eat. Please don't kill us. They did this and it has nothing to do with us. You can take revenge on them, but don't look for us. We're innocent. Yeah. Please don't kill us. You're all good people and we're just a bunch of beasts. Please give us a chance to turn over a new leaf. From now on, we'll definitely be good people and make up for what we did before. You've killed so many of our people. Please let us off this time. You've already taken your revenge. Besides, you're not dead yet, so you can't kill us." The Yi family looked at the villagers angrily. They were not moved at all by what they had said. However, they were not as cruel as the villagers and could not kill these people. Yelong respectfully said to Zhao Fu, "Sir, please handle this." Zhao Fu lightly nodded, and the villagers immediately begged for mercy from Zhao Fu. However, Zhao Fu no longer cared and waved his hand, sending out a formless energy. Bang bang bang, the heads of the villagers standing there exploded, causing their brains and blood to fly everywhere. Headless corpses fell to the ground, and the smell of blood spread out. Seeing that these people had died, the Yi family members all smiled. Zhao Fu gave a trace of a smile and had his parents and little brother go to the carriage. There were too many corpses here, and they could easily attract powerful beasts. It was not suitable for them to stay here, so he had them go to the carriage. Zhao Fu took Yi Lanshi to the darkness region. Zhao Fu was quite interested in the darkness power because from the current situation, it seemed that the darkness region was not simple at all. The fact that Yi Lanshi had devoured the God Tree's power was most likely related to the darkness region, so Zhao Fu took her with him. After coming close to the darkness region, it seemed to be a different world. The sky was dark, the ground was blood-red, and the plants growing here were all black, giving off a terrifying aura. Yilanshi frowned and looked a bit afraid as she said, "Sir, I can sense the sealing power here. I can feel the power of the seal here, and it makes me very uncomfortable. I have a feeling that I won't be able to come out after I enter." Zhao Fu felt quite surprised. He had not felt this before, and after thinking about it, it was most likely related to Yilanshi's power. Since Yilanshi felt this way, it would be best not to let her in for now. After all, Zhao Fu had seen the sealing power here, and if Yilanshi went in and was sealed as well, it would not be good. "Stay here and wait for me." Zhao Fu turned and said to Yilanshi. Yilanshi nodded seriously. Following this, Zhao Fu gave off a powerful aura and flew in. Soon, Zhao Fu saw large groups of darkness beasts. These darkness beasts looked exactly the same as the darkness beasts that had attacked Zhao Fu. The holes in the god trees most likely led here, and the darkness beasts that had been summoned came from the darkness region. The darkness beasts could not compare to Zhao Fu, and they did not have the ability to fly. Zhao Fu hid his body and flew in the air, making it impossible for them to detect Zhao Fu. Zhao Fu easily flew towards the depths of the darkness region. However, soon, a group of eagle-like darkness beasts blocked Zhao Fu's path. These darkness beasts looked like eagles and had a single blood-red eye. They were covered with black feathers and had 2 sharp teeth next to their beak. When they spread their wings, they had a wingspan of 5 meters. The countless darkness beasts sensed Zhao Fu and immediately started to ferociously attack Zhao Fu. Zhao Fu could only explode out with immense power and start a massacre with the Emperor Killing Sword. Massive sword lights containing shocking power slashed out, killing darkness beasts after darkness beasts. Countless darkness beasts' corpses fell like rain, and cries of pain sounded out throughout the sky. In the end, Zhao Fu killed countless darkness beasts and came to a large crater. There were many traces of terrifying battles here, and even after so many years, the aura they gave off was still quite terrifying. Zhao Fu's expression became serious. This was the depths of the darkness region, and he prepared to go in and take a look. Bang! The space within the crater slightly trembled, and a strange light flashed as a massive wave of power flowed out and blasted against Zhao Fu's body. Zhao Fu was not prepared at all and was sent flying far away by that massive wave of power. He crashed to the ground and coughed up a large mouthful of blood. His chest was blood-red, and his face was somewhat pale. Zhao Fu had been quite injured. After receiving this attack, Zhao Fu looked at the large crater in front of him and his expression became quite unsightly. The large crater was where the seal was, and with his strength, he would not be able to step in. Chapter 1990. Now they could only leave. Zhao Fu returned to the forbidden area of darkness with his injuries, and Yilanshi stood there waiting for Zhao Fu to come out. Luckily, Zhao Fu did not let Yilanshi go in because he could not resist the power within. If Yilanshi went in and caused any changes, Zhao Fu would not be able to do anything. Now Yilanshi's jet-black hair, a pair of bone horns, and a strange eye between her eyebrows gave off a dark and oppressive aura. Zhao Fu did not know how much potential she had. The feeling that she gave Zhao Fu was that her potential was only slightly greater than that of the moon god Sprout, which had the 10-en immortal body and the ability to become a celestial. Even if Yilanshi was only slightly greater than her, it was still quite terrifying. Moreover, the aura that Yilanshi gave off was not that of the god race, but that of the demon race. The moon god Sprout gave off a powerful god race aura. All of this was most likely related to what was sealed within the forbidden area of darkness. Zhao Fu did not have the ability to go in and investigate, so he could only put this matter aside for now. "Sir, are you all right?" Yi Lanxi's pale eyes looked at Zhao Fu as she asked with concern. Seeing that Zhao Fu was quite heavily injured, it seemed that something big had happened inside. Zhao Fu replied, "The restrictions inside are too powerful, so I can't carry them in. Let's go back." Yi Lanxi lightly nodded. After returning to the carriage was already quite crowded and could no longer hold the Yi family's 4 people. However, this was quite easy to deal with because the spatial ring was quite big and there was a carriage inside, so Zhao Fu could just take it out. He also caught a few wild cows to move the carriage. In actuality, Zhao Fu just wanted to keep Yi Lanxi and find a place for her family to settle down. However, their family had just experienced such a terrifying thing, so they did not want to be separated. In the end, Zhao Fu could only agree to let them stay. Anyway, he already had a lot of people with him, and 3 more wouldn't affect anything. Now that Zhao Fu had collected the 10 types of Yin energies and Yi Lanxi's dark Yin energy, he was still missing 3 types. As the carriage continued forward, Zhao Fu sat on the side to recover from his injuries. About 3 days later, everyone once again came to a faction. It was unknown what kind of festival was going on, but the streets were quite lively. All of the residents looked delighted as they gathered. Shen Xiaoyi happily took the moon god Sprout and got down from the carriage. She brought Wu Yi and Yi Qing and followed the commoners to a certain place. By now, Zhao Fu had recovered from his injuries and was quite curious about what festival it was, so he got off the carriage. The others felt the same way. After sitting in the carriages for a few days, they felt a little depressed. Looking at the festive and lively scene around them, they could not help but get off the carriages to relieve the depression in their hearts. Soon, they were infected by the atmosphere around them and smiled. "My lord, this is for you." Yi Lanxi happily bought a pair of pretty crystal necklaces and shyly handed them to Zhao Fu. Right now, Yi Lanxi was wearing a mask. Her appearance was quite strange and would attract many people's attention, so she wore a mask. Zhao Fu lightly laughed and did not pay it much mind. Even though Yi Lanxi had obtained great power and her appearance had greatly changed, she was still the same young girl. Seeing Zhao Fu accept the bracelet, she gave a beautiful smile and wore the other bracelet on her wrist as she followed beside Zhao Fu. Zhao Fu was quite interested in what was ahead of them. There were massive structures that looked like colosseums ahead. Each of them was 50 meters tall and 1,000 meters wide. They looked quite ancient and gave off powerful auras. Zhao Fu asked the people around him and understood what was going on. It turned out that this festival was the Battle God Festival, which was a festival where godly spirits fought against each other. It had lasted for more than 2,000 years and was the oldest festival in this place, with hundreds of godly spirits participating. The godly spirit who won would receive some corresponding rewards, and the most exciting thing was that the godly spirit who won would be called the Battle God. After becoming the Battle God, they would receive recognition from all sides and would have a position similar to that of an alliance master. This event was held every other year, so the Battle God could only be the Battle God for 1 year. Zhao Fu thought of something and asked the person next to him, "Can any godly spirit participate in the Battle God Festival?" The person next to him smiled and nodded. The Battle God Festival is a festival where godly spirits fight and encourages godly spirits to fight against each other. As such, there are no restrictions on any godly spirit participating. Godly spirits who won the Battle God title last year can also participate. Zhao Fu gave a trace of a smile and had everyone play by themselves. He had some matters to attend to. Following this, massive colosseums were filled with residents, all of them looking quite excited as they waited for the godly spirits to appear. Yi Lanxi and her family found a seat at the back and sat down. Her family also looked quite excited. They had never seen a battle between godly spirits before, and they were spectators, so they did not have to worry at all. Yi Lanxi sat by the side, absent-mindedly wondering where Zhao Fu had gone. At that moment, a chubby young man came to a stage with a smile on his face and said, "The competition will now begin. Let's welcome our boulder god." A 3-meter-tall young man who looked like a rock gave off a powerful aura as he walked out from one of the Colosseums. "Boulder God! Boulder God! Boulder God!" Countless cheers and applause sounded out, and the scene became quite lively. The sound was quite loud and spread in all directions, and this was the case in every Colosseum. In actuality, even though countless people were cheering, traces of weak faith power were quietly fusing into the young man's body. The Battle God Festival had many benefits, as it had become a form of faith. The participating godly spirits would receive the faith of the residents, and this included all of the residents, not just any faction. Even the commoners who weren't part of their own faction would be able to obtain the power of faith because of the festival. Otherwise, without all sorts of benefits, why would the high and mighty godly spirits participate in this event? The chubby young man introduced the boulder god and smiled as he pointed to the side, saying, "The godly spirit competing with the boulder god is a godly spirit participating in the Battle God Festival for the first time, and he's called Emperor God." Everyone present went into an uproar. The name Emperor God was quite domineering, but no godly spirit dared to call him that. After all, the title was equivalent to one's strength and status, and if one dared to call him that without strength and status, it would be a joke. Chapter 1991. It was the first time that someone had dared to call himself an emperor god, which was why they were so shocked. As the young man's voice sounded out, a person wearing a black cloak and giving off a mysterious aura walked out from another door. The scene fell silent as everyone's gazes fell on Zhao Fu's body. Because it was the first time they had seen Zhao Fu, and he looked so mysterious, no one cheered or clapped. The chubby young man looked quite awkward, but this was understandable. After all, this was the first time a godly spirit had appeared. Yilanshi looked quite confused as she looked at Zhao Fu, not understanding why Zhao Fu was participating in this Battle God Festival. Following this, the chubby young man announced the start of the battle between the two godly spirits. The boulder god looked at Zhao Fu, and Zhao Fu did not give off any aura, making him seem like a powerless ordinary person. It was as if the boulder god could turn him into minced meat with a single punch. However, the boulder god did not agree. He did not want to lose due to carelessness, or else he would be ridiculed by others. As such, he used his full strength from the start. Boom! An explosion sounded out as a yellow aura flame burst forth from the boulder god's body. A massive aura spread out, forming gusts of wind that blew dust and rocks into the air. The scene was quite powerful. Everyone looked quite excited, and seeing the boulder god give off such terrifying power, they could not help but shout out, "Boulder God, you're the best! I believe that you can win! Boulder God, I support you! With your strength, you can easily defeat him. I think you should give him some face later. The Boulder God will definitely win. He's so powerful! Boulder God, I support you as well. Show us all your power in this battle and shock us." Hearing the cheers, the boulder god gave a confident smile and looked at Zhao Fu. Boom! The boulder god gave off a terrifying aura as he charged at Zhao Fu, causing the air to explode. He was incredibly fast, and he arrived in front of Zhao Fu in the blink of an eye. Looking at this short and powerless person standing in front of him, the boulder god couldn't help but look down on him. He raised his fist and punched towards Zhao Fu with great power. Zhao Fu took a step to the side and easily dodged the punch. The boulder god was taken aback, but in the next moment, he felt a strong sense of danger, and his hair stood on end. Bang! Zhao Fu twisted to the side and kicked out with his left foot, giving off a terrifying destructive power. He landed on the boulder god's abdomen, resulting in a massive explosion. The boulder god's body flew back and crashed hundreds of meters away, where it lay motionless. Everything had happened too quickly. Everyone was stunned and could not react at all. After a while, countless people excitedly called out to Emperor God, Emperor God, Emperor God. No one present had expected that the seemingly powerful giant rock god would be kicked so far away. From the looks of it, the giant rock god might have fainted. That man called Emperor God was quite terrifying. No wonder he dared to call himself Emperor God. Yilanchi smiled. She knew that it was impossible for Zhao Fu to lose. As the host, the chubby young man also smiled. Zhao Fu's shocking performance had exceeded his expectations. Now that Zhao Fu had defeated the Boulder God so easily, he had gained some of his popularity, and the embarrassing scene from before would not happen again. The chubby young man smiled as he walked onto the stage and loudly announced, "Congratulations to this godly spirit for winning. Let's welcome the powerful halberd godly spirit for the next match." Everyone stopped and cheered, looking quite delighted as they looked at the door. A decent-looking woman wearing armor and holding a halberd walked out from the side, and she gave off an intense metallic aura. The crowd immediately started to cheer. This halberd god was most likely a godly spirit here, which was why he was so popular. After all, they knew him and understood his power. Zhao Fu stood there and calmly looked at the halberd god walking over. The halberd god looked at Zhao Fu seriously and said, "I saw the battle just then. You're indeed powerful, but I won't lose to you so easily." Zhao Fu condescendingly laughed as he asked, "Is that so?" Seeing Zhao Fu's attitude, the halberd god felt quite furious, and a massive aura spread out as he turned into a ray of light and shot towards Zhao Fu. Seeing how terrifying Zhao Fu was, the halberd god directly used his most powerful attack. The halberd god sent a massive amount of power into the halberd, causing it to give off an intense green light. A green deer appeared, and this green deer seemed to be made of metal. It was different from the normally gentle and nimble deer. This green deer looked quite ferocious. It gave off a powerful aura, which was a metallic aura. It gave off a sharp feeling as if it could cut through people's skin. The halberd god brought the green deer and rushed at Zhao Fu. Everyone fell silent as they watched the halberd god use his most powerful attack towards Zhao Fu. How was Zhao Fu going to block this? It would most likely not be as easy as before. Looking at the incoming halberd god, Zhao Fu smirked and sent a massive wave of power into his right hand. Black scales appeared on Zhao Fu's right hand, and his fingers became sharp before turning into a black dragon claw. The halberd god quickly arrived in front of Zhao Fu, and he was only 10 meters away from Zhao Fu. Roar! The halberd god sent another wave of power into his halberd, causing it to give off an intense green light. The ferocious green deer gave off an even more powerful aura as it smashed towards Zhao Fu, bringing with it an intense gale. At that moment, Zhao Fu slowly raised his hand and vigorously waved. Roar! A massive dragon's roar sounded out as a massive black dragon claw gave off destructive power as it attacked towards the halberd god. Bang! The green deer was torn into pieces by the massive dragon claw, and a formless energy hit the halberd god's chest. The halberd god flew back and coughed up a large mouthful of blood, and she did not even have the strength to crawl back up. Now, the halberd god lay on the ground, her face pale. She had never thought that she would be defeated by Zhao Fu so easily. Everyone else was also shocked. They had personally seen how terrifying the halberd god's attack had been, but she had still been defeated by Zhao Fu in one move. It was not that the halberd god was too weak, but that Zhao Fu was simply too powerful. Chapter 1992. Yilanchi smiled as she quietly sat by the side, and her gaze fell on Zhao Fu's body. She naturally did not feel too surprised. However, her parents and little brother beside her were completely filled with excitement and joy. Even though they knew that Zhao Fu was very powerful, they had not personally seen it, so they were not sure how powerful Zhao Fu was. The first time, it was still within the range that they could endure, But this time, such a terrifying attack had been shattered by the dragon claw. The halberd godly spirit had not been able to resist at all, and it had been heavily injured. Now they understood how terrifying Zhao Fu was, and they knew how lucky it was to be able to follow by Zhao Fu's side. Yi Lanxi's little brother pulled on Yi Lanxi's clothes and said excitedly, "Big sis, this sir is so powerful. This lord is so powerful. Can you let me have this kind of power as well? I also want to become very powerful so that I can protect you and father and mother." Hearing this, Yi Lanxi smiled as she said, "I'll tell sir later that not only you but dad and mom should also cultivate. Not only will they obtain great power, but they will also have a more miserable lifespan." Yi Lanxi's power was not suitable for her family, and she had not cultivated for very long, so she did not understand much. If she encountered something that she did not understand, she would directly ask Zhao Fu, and she was very reliant on Zhao Fu. As such, when they got off the carriage, Yi Lanxi followed closely by Zhao Fu's side, while everyone else was separated from Zhao Fu. Hearing his big sister's words, Yi Jun happily nodded and looked at Zhao Fu with admiration. Seeing the audience's excitement, the chubby young man's smile became even wider. He admitted that he had somewhat underestimated Zhao Fu. The halberd godly spirit was so powerful, but it had been defeated by Zhao Fu in a single attack. Just how powerful was Zhao Fu? Perhaps he could become this year's battle god. After calling for the injured halberd godly spirit to be treated, the chubby young man once again announced Zhao Fu's godly power and began the next match. Under normal circumstances, both godly spirits would need to rest and recover their godly power, but Zhao Fu had defeated a godly spirit in a single attack, so he did not need to rest at all. "Now, let's welcome the beetle god." As the chubby young man welcomed him, an elderly man wearing thick red armor and with insect horns on his head walked out, giving off a powerful aura. This old man was the beetle god. Now, the beetle god was a bit nervous. He had seen Zhao Fu fight with the two gods and knew how terrifying Zhao Fu was. Moreover, his attack power was not strong. If he rushed over, he would probably be defeated by Zhao Fu, just like the two deities above. Therefore, the beetle god did not intend to attack. If he did, he would have no chance, so he chose to defend. He half squatted on the ground and pressed his hand against the ground. A massive aura exploded out, forming wild gales that continuously poured into the ground. Red energy barriers appeared one after another. There were a total of 5 layers, and each layer was wrapped around the other, giving off a sturdy aura. This was not the end. The beetle god pressed hard on the ground again, and an even greater force was injected into the ground. A massive red beetle slowly appeared from the ground, giving off a powerful aura as it blocked in front of the beetle god. Finally, the beetle god stood up from the ground and took out a red shield. Seeing this, everyone was quite shocked. It looked like the beetle god did not want to attack and only wanted to defend. However, after thinking about it, everyone could understand. The beetle god's power was originally for defense and not for offense. Moreover, choosing to defend was definitely better than charging forward. Perhaps he could block one of Zhao Fu's attacks and not lose so embarrassingly. Now, facing the beetle god with its multiple layers of defense, how would Zhao Fu deal with it? Everyone's gazes were focused on Zhao Fu. Boom! A massive aura exploded out from Zhao Fu's body, forming powerful gales that blew out. Black aura continuously flowed out, forming a ferocious and domineering black dragon that was dozens of meters long in the sky. The black dragon gave off a faint black light as it swam in the sky. Its massive dragon chi stirred the wind and clouds, and a massive dragon's might spread out, causing the surroundings to sink. Everyone's faces became pale. It was the first time they had felt Zhao Fu's aura, and it was indeed terrifying. Since he dared to become an emperor, he definitely had strength. Sensing that powerful dragon's might, the beetle god's expression became even more serious, and a massive wave of power spread out. The 5 layers of energy barriers around it, the massive beetle, and the shield in its hand all gave off even more powerful auras. Zhao Fu looked at the beetle god with a terrifying gaze, and his mouth curled into a cold smile. Roar! The black dragon in the sky gave a massive dragon's roar, and it gave off a ferocious aura and terrifying power as it charged towards the beetle god. The ground could not withstand that might and started to crack. Boom! The black dragon ferociously smashed into the beetle at the very front, causing it to explode. The black dragon gave off shocking power as it continued to charge towards the barrier. Bang! 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 5 consecutive sounds rang out as the black dragon smashed through the 5 layers of energy barriers like a hot knife through butter. The beetle god's expression became quite unsightly, and it sent all of its power into the shield in its hand. The red shield gave off an intense light and gave off shocking power, as if it could block everything. Bang! The black dragon slammed into the shield with a massive aura, causing a massive sound to ring out. The beetle god was sent flying by the black dragon before crashing into a wall, causing cracks to appear on the wall and causing rubble to fly everywhere. The beetle god's body was embedded in a large crater, covered with blood, and there were many cracks on its armor. It had already fainted. Everyone looked incredibly shocked, and they could not help but gulp. So terrifying! At first, they had thought that the beetle god would be able to block a few attacks from Zhao Fu, but they had never thought that the beetle god would be in the worst state. Its injuries were quite severe, and it would take at least a week of treatment for it to recover. They were both godly spirits, so why was the difference in power between them so great? The chubby young man hurriedly ordered people to save the beetle god, who was embedded in the wall, and then ordered people to quickly treat its injuries. Even though it had lost, it was still a high and mighty godly spirit, and nothing could be allowed to happen to it. At the same time, the chubby young man hurriedly reported this matter to the higher-ups. Things had exceeded his expectations, and he was unable to deal with these problems. Chapter 1993. Zhao Fu stood there calmly, waiting for his next opponent to appear. The reason Zhao Fu had participated in the War God Festival was naturally for the title of War God, and he mainly wanted to obtain the divine power of a few hundred godly spirits. Obtaining the divine power of a few hundred godly spirits was incredibly difficult, so Zhao Fu was very interested in the War God Festival. If he fused with the divine power of a few hundred godly spirits, Zhao Fu's 10,000 god power would go through a transformation and become a higher level 10,000 god power. When that time came, Zhao Fu's 10,000 god power would become even more powerful. The chubby young man once again went up and said, "Congratulations on your victory, godly spirit. Now let's welcome Lord Dog God." A person with a dog's head and a human body, wearing leather armor and holding a mace, gave off a powerful aura. He was the dog god. The crowd once again cheered, but this time, they were not cheering for the dog god but for Zhao Fu. Now that they had seen how powerful Zhao Fu was, they stood on Zhao Fu's side and worshipped Zhao Fu. "Ah, Lord Emperor, I love you. I believe that you'll definitely become this year's war god. Lord Emperor, you're the person I worship the most. I'll always support you. Lord Emperor, you're so powerful. You'll definitely win easily this time." I knew that Lord Emperor wasn't simple, or else he wouldn't have such a domineering title. Lord Emperor is the strongest. Lord Emperor, I support you as well. I'm willing to worship you. Hearing the cheers around him, the dog god did not care at all and looked straight at Zhao Fu. He had personally seen Zhao Fu fight with other godly spirits, and he felt incredibly nervous and fearful because he knew that he might not be a match for Zhao Fu. However, if he admitted defeat without even fighting, wouldn't it be too shameful? It was better to test Zhao Fu's power and personally feel how powerful Zhao Fu was. Even if he was defeated, it would be better than admitting defeat. Dog God held his mace and roared, exploding out with a powerful aura and shocking power as he quickly rushed at Zhao Fu, looking incredibly ferocious. Zhao Fu didn't move from his spot. He just stretched out a hand. At that moment, Dog God was extremely fast. He was only 10 meters away from Zhao Fu and was about to unleash a powerful attack. Boom! Zhao Fu stretched out his hand and pressed down, causing a massive wave of power to rush out. Before the Dog God could react, he was hit by that massive wave of power, and the Dog God felt as if he had been smashed by a terrifying beast. Bang! An explosion sounded out as Dog God's body flew back and crashed hundreds of meters away. He coughed up a large mouthful of blood and lay on the ground, unable to get up. So strong. Now that he had personally taken a blow from Zhao Fu, Dog God truly understood how terrifying Zhao Fu was. He could feel what the other 3 godly spirits had felt. So painful. Dog God felt quite regretful. That attack had injured him quite badly, and if he had known that this would happen, he would have just admitted defeat and not suffered such intense pain. Emperor God! Emperor God! Emperor God! Emperor God! Seeing that Zhao Fu had defeated another godly spirit in one move, countless people could not help but feel excited and joyful. It was a pity that Zhao Fu could not absorb faith power, or else he would have been able to absorb a lot of faith power. The chubby young man was not too surprised and ordered people to carry Dog God away for treatment before going up with a smile and announcing Zhao Fu's victory. He then invited the next godly spirit to come up. The person who came out was a young man wearing light green clothes. He held a magic staff that looked like roots, and his body gave off a powerful divine spirit aura. He was a root god. Everyone quietened down and looked at the godly spirit, wanting to see how the next battle would play out. More accurately speaking, they wanted to see how Zhao Fu would defeat his opponent in one move. The root god's gaze was serious and he looked at Zhao Fu with a trace of fear. He did not immediately attack. Zhao Fu waited for a while and seeing that the young man was not attacking, he wanted to attack first. Wait. I admit defeat. The young man hurriedly said when he saw that Zhao Fu was about to attack. He knew that he was not a match for Zhao Fu and had only been hesitating. He had only made up his mind now. The reason he chose to surrender was mainly because he did not want to be heavily injured by Zhao Fu. He had seen the miserable state of those godly spirits with his own eyes. He had never thought that the root god would choose to surrender without even fighting. Everyone felt disappointed. They had wanted to see how Zhao Fu would display his terrifying power and defeat the root god in one move, but that was not possible now. Some people felt that the root god was too weak and that he was already so afraid before the battle had even started. He felt that it was quite embarrassing and that he did not even have the courage to fight. Even though others had lost, at least they had the courage to fight. Some people understood because the person he was facing was not an ordinary person but a terrifying figure who called himself an emperor god. The godly spirits continuously went up and were all heavily injured. They did not have the power to resist, so it was best for them to admit defeat. Otherwise, those godly spirits would have ended up like them. After saying that, the root god felt a little embarrassed to continue leading the way, so she turned around and returned to the door. The chubby young man smiled and continued to announce Zhao Fu's victory, and he invited the next godly spirit to come up. Following this, the godly spirits went up one by one. They were either defeated by Zhao Fu in one move or directly admitted defeat, not wanting to fight with someone as terrifying as Zhao Fu. Everyone present had gone mad, and they excitedly cheered and yelled. The cheers were incredibly loud and echoed in all directions, and everyone nearby could sense the fervor. They could not help but feel curious as to what had happened to cause everyone to go so crazy. Within a beast arena nearby, Shun Xiaoi hugged Moon God Sprout's arm as she sat on a step, watching the battle between the two godly spirits. Fog 5 and Fog E stood guard by the side, not letting anyone come close. Otherwise, with Moon God Sprout's peerless beauty, who knew how many people would surround her and express their love. They did not dare to come close, but their gazes were all focused on her body. Their gazes were fiery and filled with infatuation and possessiveness, and they did not have the mood to watch the godly spirits battle. At that moment they heard the cheers from the side. Shen Xiaoi curiously looked in that direction and grinned as she pulled the Moon God Sprout and walked towards the beast battle arena as she said, "The battles here are so boring. Big sis, let's go over there and see what's so interesting." Chapter 1994. On the way, Shen Xiaoi happily pulled the Moon God Sprout as she walked. She saw many people walking towards the battle god arena, and as they walked in, the crazed and excited voices became louder and louder. Everyone could sense the liveliness ahead. Shen Xiaoi called out to a woman and asked, "Just what's going on ahead? Why is it so lively?" The woman smiled as she replied, "I don't know what's going on either, but I heard that Lord Emperor God has appeared in this beast arena. He's incredibly powerful, and not a single godly spirit can block a single attack from him. He has already defeated 30 or so godly spirits. Moreover, I heard that Lord Emperor God is very domineering and has an aura that attracts women. I was called over by my sisters, and I want to see what kind of person Lord Emperor God is." Shen Xiaoi nodded and happily pulled the Moon God Sprout as she said, "Big sister, let's hurry." Shen Xiaoi pulled the Moon God Sprout and ran towards the beast arena. She also wanted to see what kind of person that domineering Lord Emperor God was. The Moon God Sprout smiled and allowed Shen Xiaoi to pull her. She did not care too much about Lord Emperor God, because there was already someone in her heart who no one could compare to. Soon, they arrived at the beast arena. Roar, 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 dragons' roars sounded out as 9 domineering and savage black dragons gave off terrifying dragon's might as they ferociously charged forwards, seeming to be able to destroy everything. At the front stood a violet-haired young man holding a large saber. He sent all of his power into the large saber, causing it to give off an intense violet light. Seeing the black dragons reach him, the violet-haired young man slashed out with his saber, causing a terrifying saber light to flash out. It seemed to be able to tear apart space, causing some small cracks to appear. Boom! The powerful violet saber light slammed into the 9 black dragons, resulting in an intense explosion. A shockwave spread out, causing the ground to collapse and dust to fill the air. After the dust settled, the violet-haired young man was covered in blood as he lay in a large crater. Opposite him was a black-cloaked figure who was completely fine and was standing there. "Lord Emperor God! Lord Emperor God! Lord Emperor God! Lord Emperor God!" Countless people saw Zhao Fu defeat a godly spirit in one move, and this godly spirit was incredibly powerful. However, he was still defeated by Zhao Fu, and they once again cheered wildly for Zhao Fu. Moon God Sprout and the others looked quite confused. They had never thought that the Emperor God would be the Zhao Fu they were familiar with. Why would Zhao Fu participate in this competition and use the name of the Emperor God? They did not know much about this, but looking at how excited the people around them were, Moon God Sprout gave a beautiful smile. This was someone she approved of, and she was very happy that he had caused such a stir. Shen Xiaoi was a little shocked. This fellow is really popular. Not only those men, even countless women are shouting his name. Fog 5 and Fog E looked at Zhao Fu seriously. They knew from the start that Zhao Fu's power was terrifying, but they had not personally seen him fight and could not be sure just how powerful Zhao Fu was. Now that they had seen Zhao Fu's power, everything was as they had expected. They definitely could not offend such a person. Boom! 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 Explosions sounded out as massive godly spirit auras descended. Figures appeared in the sky. They were all godly spirits. Before, they only knew that Zhao Fu was very powerful and had defeated a few godly spirits. Now that 30 or so godly spirits had been defeated by him and could not even withstand a single attack from Zhao Fu, they could not help but take him seriously. There were 20 or so godly spirits here, and they were undoubtedly some of the most powerful godly spirits here. They all came here to personally see just what kind of existence this Emperor God was. As the godly spirits descended, their massive divine might caused the lively scene to quieten down. The godly spirits all looked at Zhao Fu with serious expressions. A woman in a silver robe with a single horn on her head asked, "May I know who you are?" The chubby young man obediently stood to the side. Even though it was against the rules for so many godly spirits to descend, he did not have the ability to stop them. Zhao Fu calmly looked at the woman and said, "I won't tell you that. Also, I'm here to participate in the War God Festival's competition. If you want to compete with me, then come up. If not, don't disturb my competition." The silver-robed woman said seriously, "You've already defeated over 30 godly spirits, so you have the qualifications to participate in the final competition. I also want to see just how powerful you are. You'd best prepare yourself. I won't be defeated by you so easily." Zhao Fu lightly laughed, "Then you can give it a try. Everyone who loses to me says the same thing." The silver-robed woman coldly harumphed, "I want to see if you're as powerful as they say." Following this, the silver-robed woman flew down from the sky. The other godly spirits did not stand in the sky and instead flew to the spectator stands, intending to watch the battle between Zhao Fu and the silver-robed woman. The commoners also quietened down, looking forward to the next battle. They wanted to see if Zhao Fu would be able to defeat his opponent so easily. Moreover, the silver-robed woman was a famous expert here, so would she be able to defeat Zhao Fu? None of this was certain, and the next battle would determine the answer. The silver-robed woman stood opposite Zhao Fu and looked at Zhao Fu. She did not underestimate Zhao Fu and used her full power right from the start. The silver-robed woman's body gave off an intense silver light, and the surroundings became extremely quiet. Traces of silver lightning flashed, and a formless danger spread out, causing people's hair to stand on end. Swish! The silver-robed woman instantly disappeared, leaving behind only a few traces of lightning in the air. Everyone felt quite shocked, so fast. In the next second, the silver-robed woman appeared in front of Zhao Fu, and her palm wrapped with countless silver lightning arcs, giving off sizzling sounds as she quickly slammed towards Zhao Fu. She seemed to be able to destroy everything, and the scene was quite shocking. Zhao Fu calmly looked at the silver-robed woman, and a black dragon inscription barrier giving off a powerful aura appeared around Zhao Fu's body. Boom! The silver-robed woman's palm slammed against the barrier, and the countless silver-white lightning bolts also slammed against the barrier, resulting in a massive explosion. Seeing that she had not been able to harm Zhao Fu at all, the silver-robed woman cried out and a terrifying wave of lightning energy exploded out. Countless silver lightning bolts that were as thick as a child's arm containing terrifying power blasted towards Zhao Fu. Crackle! Chapter 1995. Everyone looked at the silver-robed woman in shock. As a famous expert, the power that the silver-robed woman had displayed was quite terrifying, and she was the first person to make Zhao Fu defend against her instead of being instantly killed. Can she really defeat an emperor god? Seeing this terrifying power, everyone became even more confident, and some of the people who supported Zhao Fu were not as confident as before. The other godly spirits watched the battle seriously. There might be some conflicts between them, but they did not want an outsider godly spirit to become their battle god. This had never happened before. As such, they stood on the silver-robed woman's side and wanted her to teach this outsider godly spirit a lesson so that he could keep a low profile and not be so arrogant. The silver-robed woman saw that the bolts of lightning continuously landed on the defensive barrier and only caused some small cracks. Even though they could break through Zhao Fu's defense, it would take too long, so the silver-robed woman did not hesitate. Boom! An explosion sounded out as the godly divinity within her body gave off an intense silver light and exploded out with all of its power. Crackle, massive explosions sounded out as blinding lightning flashed. Countless terrifying bolts of lightning appeared, rampaging in the surroundings like lightning snake. The ground continuously cracked and collapsed as a 100-meter-wide silver lightning lake was formed. Zhao Fu and the silver-robed woman stood at the center of the silver lightning lake. The silver-robed woman pressed down on the defensive barrier, causing the lightning to madly attack Zhao Fu from all directions. Massive sounds rang out, and the scene was quite terrifying. Crack! 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 The black dragon-patterned barrier was unable to withstand so many lightning attacks, and large cracks began to appear on it. It looked like the barrier was about to shatter. The godly spirits all smiled. They believed that the silver-robed woman would be able to defeat Zhao Fu, and Zhao Fu's power was only SOSO. It seemed that some people had exaggerated his power. He was quite powerful, but he was not unimaginably terrifying. However, he had fought against ordinary godly spirits before, and those ordinary godly spirits were naturally weaker, which was why he had won so easily. The silver-robed woman was no ordinary godly spirit. She was a thunder god, a very powerful thunder god. Among the many godly spirits, she was at least ranked 5th. Facing such a terrifying expert, that person's true strength was revealed. Judging from the current situation, no one would believe that the silver-robed woman had been defeated in a single move. The countless commoners did not say anything as they stared at Zhao Fu and Zhao Fu, feeling incredibly nervous. The defensive barrier was about to be broken. The silver-robed woman gave a trace of a smile. As long as she could break through the barrier, she would be able to attack Zhao Fu and teach Zhao Fu a lesson. But at that moment, the silver-robed woman noticed that Zhao Fu was looking at her calmly. There was no change in his expression, nor was there any sign of panic. What's going on? The silver-robed woman still didn't understand. Bang! The black dragon-patterned barrier was shattered by countless bolts of lightning, and countless bolts of lightning ferociously attacked Zhao Fu. At that moment, Zhao Fu gave a trace of a smile and said, "It's my turn now." Hearing these words, the silver-robed woman felt quite startled and felt an extreme sense of danger. She felt as if she had fallen into icy water. Boom! An incredibly terrifying power exploded out as massive blood-red lightning bolts blasted out with Zhao Fu at the center. The ground continuously crumbled, and the silver lightning bolts were easily destroyed. The originally terrifying silver pool of lightning turned blood-red in an instant, and it looked even more malevolent and frightening. By now, the silver-robed woman had already unleashed a defensive barrier, blocking the countless bolts of lightning. She looked at Zhao Fu in terror as she said, "As a godly spirit, how can you have god-killing power?" Zhao Fu did not reply to her and stretched out a hand. Countless blood-red lightning bolts gathered in his palm and crackled. Boom! Zhao Fu pushed out with his hand, and countless blood-red lightning bolts containing shocking power blasted towards the silver-robed woman with Zhao Fu in front of him, seeming to be able to destroy everything. Bang! A massive sound rang out as the silver-robed woman's defensive barrier shattered, and her body was sent flying hundreds of meters before stopping. She coughed up a large mouthful of blood, and blood-red lightning wrapped around her body. The residents looked incredibly shocked. Things had happened too quickly, and no one had been able to react in time. Just then, the silver-robed woman had been about to shatter the defensive barrier and had the upper hand, so how had she been sent flying? The silver-robed woman's face was incredibly pale, and she looked like she could not fight anymore. This person had defeated yet another godly spirit in a single move. What's more, this person was not an ordinary godly spirit, but a famous godly spirit. She was the fifth-ranked godly spirit here, and yet she had been defeated in a single move. The loss had been too sudden, and everyone was so shocked that they forgot to cheer and cheer. The other godly spirits were also incredibly shocked. The silver-robed woman they had believed in had lost, and she had lost so completely without being able to resist at all. This person is so powerful, I've underestimated him. Moreover, that person clearly had a divinity and gave off a godly spirit's aura, so how could he have such a terrifying god-killing power? That was a power that countered godly spirits, and it was incredibly difficult for ordinary people to obtain it. Moreover, they had personally seen the power of some god-killers before. Even though there were some powers that countered them, they were definitely not as powerful as this person was. If it wasn't for the massive god-killing power hitting the silver-robed woman, she would not have lost so easily. She would have been able to fight. Just who was this person? Not only was he so powerful, but he also had such terrifying god-killing power. With this god-killing power, he could counter all godly spirits, and he would have a massive advantage no matter what godly spirit he fought. On the viewing platforms, Shen Xiaoyi, who had been happily laughing, became serious. She had not liked this person who had stolen her big sister, but now that she had personally witnessed Zhao Fu explode out with such terrifying god-killing power, and he was also a godly spirit, she understood that Zhao Fu was incredibly terrifying. This made Shen Xiaoyi understand that Zhao Fu was incredibly terrifying and that he was not an ordinary person. Fog 5 and Fog E tightly stared at Zhao Fu, their expressions becoming quite serious. Zhao Fu's level of power had already surpassed anything they had expected. Moon God Bud also looked at Zhao Fu with a serious expression. Zhao Fu was simply hiding too many secrets. The Yi family members looked incredibly excited as they looked at Zhao Fu. Only now did they know just how lucky they were to have been able to meet Zhao Fu and follow by his side. Big sister. Sir is so powerful, Yi Jun said excitedly to Yi Lanshi. Yi Lanshi gave a beautiful smile and lightly nodded. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.